If you've watched the series before, you know that the goal is not always to interview the biggest names in the hobby, but it's to sit down with the people building real trading card businesses and learn how they think, learn what's worked, learn what hasn't, and what lessons that they've learned along the way. Today's guest is someone that I've been looking forward to talking with because their story is very different from most of us. While many sellers start with a binder or a few $1,000s, Ryan from AVA reportedly made the decision to go in debt by about $1 million into building his Pokemon business. That's a completely different level of commitment, risk, and planning than most of us can tolerate. Today, I want to understand what the decision looked like, how the business has evolved, and what they've learned that the rest of us can apply to our own business. So let's get into it. What's up, Ryan? Appreciate you joining me.
I appreciate you having me.
All right, Ryan. So first, let's start with just kind of the baseline of your business. Where did you get the name AVA? What does it all mean? And when did you start doing this?
Okay, so the lie I'm supposed to say is that I'm from a place called Aldie, Virginia, and I should just say it's AVA for that. Okay. I just like the way it looked with the A, the V, and the A. I just happen to like the way that it looked. And so
symmetry thing.
Yeah, I wanted to be called Limited Edition, but Limited Edition is not a website I was ever going to be able to get. And the reason I wanted Limited Edition was in the movie Unbreakable. The store that Sam Jackson has in that movie is called Limited Edition, and that's what I wanted. So,
good movie.
A great movie. So originally it was AVA Limited Edition, and now it is, or AVA Limited Edition, I should say, really. And now along the way, I realized that nobody really gave a shit besides me about limited edition, and so I moved it to AVA TCG, but I didn't really just love the TCG, so it was like, well, what can I make this? And there's a guy out of England, I think Graded Gallery or something like that. I watched a lot of his videos, and I liked the gallery idea, and so that's where the card gallery came from. Got it.
Makes sense. The obvious question is just $1 million is just a jaw-dropping number. I mean, where did you get the idea of investing or going in debt, or however you want to put it, into just building this thing up? And again, when did you start doing this?
So the LLC would have been formed last year around May. So bit of backstory, I've been a collector of multiple games, not Pokemon, since I was probably 5, right? When I was 5, it was sports cards and Marvel and DC cards and mostly comics. I was a big comic kid. So that sort of stuck with me my whole life, is the comics piece of this. I actually sold off a huge lot of my comics, probably 10,000 comics, to get seed capital for the business that started in May. And we're talking, I mean, I had some comics, Batman's from like 1940s and things like that, just to have some seed capital. There's some things that I kept that I'll just never sell, things that my father gave me that, I'll just never sell. And I kept a few things that just weren't going to be worth selling, but ultimately things that I really just liked. But we sold a lot. And that seed capital.
That had to be really hard, man, after building a collection like that.
Well, so the hardest part actually was, when, again, being just a huge comic nerd, around 2009-10, I want to say, DC pushed out what they called the New 52. It was a reset of their entire line, right? And they pushed out 52 new lines. It was going to be a full year's worth of stories, and some of the mission was to not just go back to the old stories that they had, or and kind of reinvent some of the characters. You get some really great characters out of that. And at the time, I'm probably, this is 2010, so I'm 25. I'm collecting like a madman. My father had just passed, and I was very cognizant of the fact that at some point I would very much like to have kids, and I'd like to explore the things that I loved with my father, right? And so I'm picking up these like #1 issues, which are not like #1s from 1940, right? But like they're #1s within the context of this new line. I was picking up like 3 or 4 copies at a time, because my thought was, well, if I have 2 or 3 kids, like I want each of them to have one. And so for like the first like 5 of the entire New 52 line, I grabbed 5 of them or something. So actually it wasn't the stuff, there was stuff that I kept that was from me, like just from my childhood. And some of them, torn pages or whatever, like it's more meaningful to me than it would be to anybody else. But it was actually letting go of those things that I had collected for the theory of kids that was harder to let go. Because I have 2 little ones. but I got to tell you, I don't think they have the interest. And if they do have the interest, we'll build a comic collection together. And that's more or less what I came to. So, but they went to actually a dear friend of mine. He has a grandson that right now is like 9 or 10. And he was like, hey, he loves these things. I'll buy them off you, give you some seed money. And so you can kind of be close to it. So it didn't go that far. And I had a good friend who was able to help me out in that capacity. And now his grandson has my 30-year comic collection, which is kind of a nice thing as well.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So your original kind of how this thing started. So again, in May, I started the LLC. In April, my mother was diagnosed terminal. And she's still with us. I don't know for how long, but she's still with us. And I was sort of in this place of loss, right? Like you get this terrible bit of news like 2-3 weeks earlier, and you're sort of just trying to figure out what you're going to do with it all. My son and I have been going to a comic book store since he could crawl. And in that, he at some point, he was like, can we do something else, right? And that was just kind of a general statement. We had done it for like 2 years. Every Saturday we would go to the comic store, and then we would go to Chick-fil-A, and then by the time we were done with that, it was time for nap. It was actually a really nice kind of series of day for me. Growing up, it was like, oh man, I get to just play with my kid and do this. And they had free games like the Turtles game.
That's awesome.
It was awesome for me. It was perfect, right? A perfect morning. So I had slowly just sort of been playing on Arena for Magic the Gathering. And I've been, a Magic player since I was 13, 14. So I played in the original Urza's block and Marquisian Mask, and I've ripped Fallen Empires. And, when I started, I really started back then. And so around COVID, I picked up Arena. I enjoyed it, but it's not like I was playing it all the time because I also had 2 kids. And when I was, I guess I was playing Arena one day, and he sat on my lap, what is this? And so I was kind of letting him click around, play with me. And so at some point we were on the drive to the comic book store, and he went, can we do something else today? And so I said, do you want to go to a card store? Now here I am thinking, we're gonna go and rip some Magic, right? Like we're gonna get a $3 or $4 or $5 pack. We're gonna have some fun. We walk into the store, and around locally, it's a very large and known store. And they were very nice to me. I know that it's kind of a tale of two cities for me, which is I have this like sweet moment, this first moment with my kid, but there's also kind of this sentiment in the community that in this particular store, who will remain nameless, their prices are just sort of out of control, right? But at the time, I didn't know any better, right? I hadn't been to a card store in years. So we go, and I'm convinced we're gonna rip, I don't know, Murders of Carlo Mine or something for like $3 or $4, right? And just have a good time. And he sees Pokemon. And we have never talked about Pokemon. We've never watched Pokemon. I've watched the original cartoon when it first came out. I still have my blue cartridge for the Game Boy, right? But like that was the essence of my Pokemon journey, was just kind of what I did as an early teenager before I sort of found girls and jobs and things like that. That was me, because I don't know how old you are, or, some of your listeners, but I'll turn 41 in 2 weeks. So. And actually, probably, I think the day this may or may not release may be my actual birthday. So,
I'm not far behind you, man. I'm going to be 40 this month. So.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So like that was my interaction with it. I was never a ripper. My brother was. It was more his age for like the TCG portion of it. And I had always played Magic. And frankly, as a Magic player, I hate to be rude, but as a Magic player, we typically look down at the Pokemon game because it just didn't seem complicated enough. Frankly, it was like, this is way too easy, and I don't understand. And I think that judgment was pervasive, especially in the early kind of time period as Pokemon was starting up. And it felt more like a video game and a show than a TCG, right? And at the time, I wasn't collecting anything. Other than keeping my own, I wasn't really collecting much of Magic or anything. It was just I kept my stuff. Anyway, we got into the store. I don't know anything about the sets. He wants to now rip Pokemon, and I'm looking at the prices going, oh my God. They're like, what are you talking about? And I went to the lady. She's very nice. She still works there. And I was like, what do I do? Because I don't know what to do here. I don't want to just rip the cheapest pack if that doesn't make any sense. And she said, well, will he like Charizard? Now I know who Charizard is, right? Like everybody really knows who Charizard is. And I was like, yeah, sure. It's a big fire dragon, right? Like, why wouldn't he like that? She's like, rip Obsidian Flames. It was like $7 or something on the shelf. And I'm having price memory from like 1999 in my head. Like, we were talking about $7, right? And we rip the thing. We don't get Charizard, right? But her logic was sound, right? Like, it's one of the cheapest packs. There's a couple Charizards in the set. Like, it did make sense. I didn't know it at the time, but like, she did me a mitzvah there. But I saw his face, and I'll send you privately. But I saw his face. He lit up. He was interested. He was looking at every card like it mattered. It was
all over. Yeah.
It was as a parent, like seeing him just enjoy something like that. And I'm in this lull of life where like I've just had this very depressing news, right? And now I'm seeing the joy on my kid's face. I was like, oh, I got to find more of this. But then I'm also looking at the difference between what the Magic packs are selling for and what the Poke packs are selling for, right? And I was like, oh man. So I went hunting for a while. That was kind of the introduction to the hobby. And then it was just massive consumption of knowledge. I'm a big fantasy football player, like Dynasty fantasy football. And
nice.
Yeah, love it. And my win strategy is just to have listened to more podcasts than everybody else effectively so that I can pick up any little thing. And so,
just be a sponge.
Yep. And I listen to everything almost on YouTube at 2 or 3x speed. And so I'm literally just constantly on. I probably get 24 hours in a day of just content because it's kind of just always on in the background for me. And so I'm listening to Brian from Pokemon and Rob from RNG Games, and a shout out I'll give because I don't think he gets enough love. But Game Vitamins is a great
dude. Yes, absolutely agree.
He just doesn't get enough love, but I think he's incredible as a YouTube journey for what he's done. And so those are kind of my introductions. Then eventually I found like Mason, right, and from Cardinal, and Louis from Kitchen Table, and some others. And this was the sponge, but it wasn't. It was definitely the bigger players rather than sort of the niche and smaller things. And so I really, for a while, it was just that. And then just like literally out in the wild hunting for packs and finding myself being very frustrated by the fact that it was very hard to find and do anything with it. So that's been my journey as a starting place. I'm happy to go further with any other questions.
I think that's awesome. Actually, it's funny that you brought up Game Vitamins, because I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, who do you most closely compare to when I think about kind of like your ascension and how quickly it happened? And again, startup capital, wherever it came from, doesn't really matter. I know he had other businesses as well. And it was like, I was thinking it's got to be Game Vitamins, with the way that he essentially got to an LGS within about a year or so, and like the stuff that he was doing and the box openings and being as clear as he could with the numbers, but obviously sandbagging a little bit, waiting to tell everyone what he did. I mean, you're going about it a lot differently. I mean, it felt like, and I was one of the people who saw your first video that you went live on YouTube, and I don't want to jump too far ahead because I do want to talk about content, but you know, you had a bunch of people that were immediately showing support, and I know where that came from, but why don't we just pause for a second, because the Discord came before all of this, right? Or was it in conjunction with?
So I would say yes, but, and so the but is kind of last summer, to try and fund the hobby more, right? I was, because at this point it wasn't really much of a business. I had an LLC, but it really wasn't much of a business yet. I started looking at my Magic, going like, well, there's got to be valuable stuff here. So I'm using, what's the name of that? Mana Box? Is that what it's called? Yeah, the little app on your phone. So I'm using that. I'm up all hours of the night, like scanning individual cards. I thank God for that, because scan and identify is awful. So and I talked to my wife. I'm like, there's some real value here, right? Like it is a 30-year Magic collection. There's some real value in this. And she's like, all right, so you're selling that. And she and I have an interesting relationship with this business at this point. We can go over that as well. But I was like, yeah. I mean, I will, because it'll help. But I started like in little ways, not a lot, but it was a lot of it's still bulky bulk, right? Like at a certain right. I hadn't really mastered any of it. I was just sort of doing what I thought I was seeing and trying to find my way in it. And then I was again hunting a ton. And so kind of came to a place of like, I followed what Game Vitamins had said, I think, which was break out a commander deck and just sell that to get to level 4. And so I sort of did that to speed run to level 4, but then didn't sell much after because I didn't have an interest in it at the time. There's a little bit of me still being the Magic collector going, but I don't really want to let go of my stuff. And so that kind of piece of it held me back on the Magic, but I'm a little glad that it still exists. I've sort of it's there, it's in the closet over here, but it's, I don't know, 20,000, 25,000 cards. Different era.
Good size.
Yeah, right. All the way to like Final Fantasy, a little bit of Spider-Man maybe, but Edge of Eternity is a little bit kind of that range. I started doing pack openings on YouTube, thinking like maybe that'll help me. You know, I'll be that guy that's famous that way, and quickly learned I would not be. So anyway, I have these. Some of them are truly amazing cards, but I have not gotten rid of them. And now my reason for not getting rid of them is I have this sort of excuse of I don't have to, because I have all of the other things going on that I don't have to let go of what's been mine for 30 years. Long term, that's a bad motive, and I need to get out of that space. But it's literally kind of the one thing I've sort of held on to that's just lingered from the past.
It's not the worst thing. I mean, it keeps you connected, right, to the collectors, that your audience, your buyers.
Yeah. So, but it's, you know, I know that there's probably 10 caltrops in there right now, which right now are probably $18 cards, right? Like I should probably unload those right now. Anyway, so you were asking about the Discord. So I go out and hunt for May and June and July. And at the time I was just on the Facebook group. I Googled Pokemon on Facebook and found a group, and it was good. It was fine. It was maybe like 1,000 people. You know, on occasion you get a shout out on a store that might be local to you. That was about it. And I was grateful, but it was like, it felt like I was always going to be behind the curve, right? Like by the time somebody is calling this out, if you even get there, like it's gone. And frankly, the one that blew my mind and sort of angered me and pushed me towards where I started building was DR release day. So I happen to have like the day pretty clear. I'm going from store to store because it was the only way I was going to be able to find knowledge. I go to one of our stores is like the Wild West. And it would become sort of clear as a pattern recognition that this particular store could release at any given time, and they might do multiple waves, and they tend to do that just in general. So I go there, and then I go to a kind of a nearby store. We have a lot of stores where I am. Like there's probably a Target every 15 minutes. And so I'm doing this like little pattern of like 4 stores. But I go to one store, and in the pattern, like I'm halfway to this other store, and somebody pings in that same, there's DR is dropping right now. I'm like, I was literally just there and said there was nothing. So I loop around, and by the time I get back, everything's cleared. And we're talking about 7-8 minutes away, which is not uncommon for this area. But it's actually where I met my mod, which separately is an incredible thing. And he saw sort of a look of disappointment on my face, and I think he recognized like my face from the Facebook group or whatever, because he saw that I had originally called it out like not 10 minutes ago that this was all, there was nothing there, and then somebody a minute later was like, oh, it's all here. Anyway, he offered, and generously, did not have to. He was like, do you want one? Like, I'll sell you an ETB at MSRP. I was like, are you serious right now? Like, now, mind you, I have no inclination as a business I have no idea what I'm doing with this. Like, I wanted it because I wanted it, but it wasn't like I knew, I'm going to sell it, or I'm going to trade it, or I'm going to rip it. Like, I just sort of wanted the things. I was getting into the, let's be Rudy or let's be something, where we do a bunch of seal collecting, but that was kind of as far as I had gotten. Again, not a business, sort of floundering around. So I bought it off him. I still have it. It's right here. It's sort of a memory for me at this point, that like, it's one of those things I won't sell because, why would I? Like that's the connection I got. Anyway, he was very nice. And shortly thereafter, I had like my mother terminal. She had to go to Duke for oncology for some testing, and I put out a notice hey guys, if anybody wants to give any of your bulk, I would be happy to kind of make little packs and create these packs to bring to kids if you have any sealed things that you want to do, right? I found out that that particular hospital has like 3 oncology wards just for children, which is heartbreaking, but they do good work there.
Yeah.
And so I got a bunch in. I made these little, in penny sleeves, like 10 card packs, and we there was a bunch of sealed that we brought to from different things. Brought it to the hospital. Didn't make an appointment, didn't plan, didn't sign any waivers. I just brought it to the hospital and they took it, which I thought was going to be like, great. It was super easy, frankly. And I was going to make this kind of a regular pattern of like, we can do this more because I want to, just like sort of a feel good thing. And then I went to try and do that locally and no hospitals would take it. They will not take these like kind of self-made packs. It has to be sealed. And I was like, do you understand how hard it is to find anything sealed in reality, much less to like give in donation? Like this was all donated by people and they were like, we can't take it. So I was a little disheartened by that, but that gave me a little bit of credibility within the local community for having done that, right? Just the act of doing it.
Yeah.
And there's a local server that I got added to around that same time. And they were a step above, right? They were faster than the Facebook group. They were, I would say, more eyes on, right? Just in general, they had more people and they were more eyes on. But it was this just sort of running chat system. And I don't blame them. Like a lot of them were working. The Facebook was working like that. And it was more like now I have information, but it's not collated in any way that makes sense to my brain. And so again, going back to kind of the fantasy football of this, it was like, how do I turn this mesh of just unfiltered data, of unfiltered information that's just being pushed through chats into something that, from the way I operate and kind of how I think of things from a work perspective. And so the Facebook group was being shut down. Something about Facebook was just shutting down these kinds of groups in general, the chats of these groups. Maybe they just couldn't make any money off of it. I don't know. Yeah. So I pinged in, I was at work. I saw that the owner of that group said they were going to be shutting down by Friday. So I started the server and just pinged it, and I had a logo. I put that was as much as I had done, right? This was like end of July, early. I think it was like August, like 7th, if I remember. I can look back and find that out. I should know it. Anyway, the first person to join was my mod, was the guy who sold me the DR. And it's one of those things, I will always be grateful to him because he was kind when he didn't need to be, and he showed up and play and rolled up his sleeves from the very beginning. He's a very nice guy. He's younger than me, which is annoying. But he's a very nice guy. And so he and I, we sat back and sort of game planned a little bit. At one point it was just 3 of us and we were all 3 mods, right? And then we sort of built a little team. I want to say we were at like, I don't know, 50 by the end of August. Some people again carried over from the Facebook. And that was sort of kind of the idea at the time, was like, well, if this is shutting down, maybe I can get all 1,000 people to join.
Yeah, right? Get them all migrated over. Yeah,
right. That didn't happen, right? But and then about September, he came to me with an idea. He's a dev by trade, and he's like, "Listen, I think I can kind of create a bot that will help us sort of do this better. You're constantly talking about how you don't like the chat stream. I think I can organize this better." And so we did, and he built a very kind of MVP model of what the bot would be like. We were using command prompts in chat to get it started, and we were teaching people how to build a command prompt, but / yada yada yada. Mm-hmm. We were still kind of scrappy and small in terms of our numbers, so people were willing to kind of give us the grace of like figuring it out, because the byproduct was it would launch kind of this window of, rather than the chat just being, this was the problem with the chat. Oh, I don't know, XYZ store has been called out and 50 people ask questions. And if you're the 51st,
just gets buried.
You have no idea what just happened. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And so we got a lot of grace from the community. And I think by like October, we were at like 250. By November, we were at like 500. By January, end of January, we were at 1,000. And in July, we just hit 3,500 people.
Wow.
And so a lot of growth, a lot of good, and we do our fair bit to try and stop the. There are some very known scalper groups in our area. Some are particularly annoying. The others are particularly violent, and so we use the information to either curtail their chicanery or get in front of where they're going to be. And so we built a lot of access and tools into that. We have forecasting tools because we have 6 months of data that we can pull from. We have live mapping of when the drop happens, so you can kind of see how many drops have happened on the day and where they are, and or on the week, so you can kind of focus that, like, oh, these 6 stores have been hit, so tomorrow I'm going to try these 2 based on the forecast, because whatever. But that's the kind of thing that, again, we were a scrappy insurgency to start. The other server that I started with, and I'm friends with the owner, friendly at the very least, right? He had a bot shortly after we made ours. I think he's a dev too. He made his within like a week, and I would say his was more polished, but had less user adoption because everyone was just so used to using the chat system, whereas we were building a community that was used to using the bot. And that integration, as well as sort of, we had a very positive mindset very early on. It is hard to combat the kind of negative Nancy of it all as you grow, but early on it was a very positive place to be, and that really set us apart, and then created that kind of data backstream. And now we incentivize the users, members who make the top call outs in the month get free access to the advanced tools that we have. And so that's part of we want people to be incentivized to help each other out and make the call outs. So that's one of the things we do.
And the bot is specifically for Pokemon right now, right?
I would say it's all TCGs, but the focus for the community is Pokemon. We did recently, I don't know, version 50 million of whatever this is at this point, where you can kind of tell people what's there. Windows Pokey, Riftbound, or Sports, or whatever. It's a little hard because in the midst of everything, you don't want to slow down the user from being able to drop where the drop is. Right, like you don't want to slow down that process, and then after the fact, unless there's a reason, they're not necessarily inclined, nor are they mandatorily required to say it's Pokemon and Sports. Right, it's a nice thing to have, and certainly something we want to keep tracking. The thing that a lot of people do is, and I know people are mad at this in general, but we had noticed sort of this formation of what we call hope lines, and but it was almost this category of, by the time a drop happened, there were 20 people waiting around and nobody knew about it. And then the drop happened and it's cooked because nobody knew of the 20 people that were waiting around ahead of time. And so we incentivized both the call out of the hope line as well as the understanding that it was there with how many people. So we wanted people to understand that, like, if you're frustrated by this in general, it may be because they waited around for 4 hours and that hope line was called out 4 hours ago. So along the way, we've made little tweaks, tried to, again, create more incentive structures for people to make the call outs, whatever those call outs may be, and go from there.
And this is localized then to your area, right?
Right now it's localized to my area, and that's the larger DMV. So the District of Columbia, DC, Maryland, Virginia. I desperately want to grow it because I think the tools that we've created, there's a lot of, there's Poke Notify and Poke whatever, right? There's tons of online drop things, and we have that. We have a paid for online monitor that picks it up at the same time as Poke Notify or any of these other things. Now, I will grant you that some of these other tools, these online tools, have backdoor intel where they're able to find some things that before something would pop up on a monitor. But there's so many ways of getting that information at this point that the edge isn't necessarily there. And what we have found is that our edge is these other groups have not found a way to localize the information of, I didn't hit online because the bots all got it. How do I get it in store? So that's our kind of competitive edge at this point.
Got it. We're going to have description and links, I should say, in the description below on all that. If someone wanted to help kind of expand what you've built, Do they just join your Discord and ping you?
Yeah, join the Discord,
Okay.
ping me, and you're in Indiana, you're in Illinois, you're in Michigan, you're in New Jersey. It doesn't really matter. We can and would, if there was enough interested parties, we would build out an expansion model of, okay, this is the state, these are the regions of the state. We would build out all the stores for so every particular option of a store based on that region, every Target, every Walmart, and that takes time, right? But at that point, we would then be looking for mods who will control the chaos, but also help to grow it. I mean, even within our own territory, so to speak.
Got it.
Areas that are new, like for us, the Tidewater area, which is down by Norfolk, Virginia Beach, and Hampton Roads, and things like that. It's a slower moving train from a growth standpoint because you've got to get people to actually share the Discord and also be willing to join the Discord. Whereas in the Northern Virginia, Maryland, DC area, we're very well known. So I would love to have more territories. So if there are people who are interested and want to help grow their community, I view it as this is the way you're going to help yourself as well as others in your community hit an MSRP. And other than that, you're probably also going to stop some scalping that you probably are annoyed by locally yourself. So
there you go. Fight fire with fire.
Yeah.
I like that. So all in all, you've been in the trading card space. What is it approximately? I've been trying to track it about 15 months.
So in the business space since about May. So yeah.
May of 26 or 25?
May of 25.
Okay.
Yeah. How long have I been in TCGs in general? Since I was 13. So
sure, but business wise, a little over a year.
Yeah, a little.
And you mentioned your wife has a love-hate relationship with the business. Is that where you were alluding?
Yes. She loves me. She hates it. So we have a deal very early on because she knew that I wanted to do this, and she didn't like the comics that were in the closet, right? And I said, I'm gonna give you a business proposition. You've always wanted me to do something more. Mostly, you wanted me to make more money. So here's my proposition. I'm going to sell my comics, and you could see the joy in her heart of like, oh, thank God, right? But I'm going to use that to build a business centered around this, right? And they started to explain that, and I was like, but that means things are going to be coming in and out, and there was some early friction, I want to say, about the amount of in and the less amount of out. I said, this is inventory. I understand that you just looked at this as this is the new comics, right? But I am treating this like inventory. To be fair to her, I probably wasn't moving enough, but I'm glad I didn't either because it's worth more now. But and then at the time I wasn't even into like bulk. It was just sealed, right? Like, and it was still a lot. And that kind of goes to your earlier point about the debt piece, right? And so we came to an understanding, which was, she said, at what point is the family going to see money out of this enterprise? Otherwise, kind of, what are we doing here? And I said, okay. So as a part of my position in life, I sort of negotiate for a living, and you don't negotiate against yourself. And I said, okay, what is it that you want, right? Because I could throw out a number and she could have been lower, for that matter. And she said, I would like to see cash to the family that's coming from this enterprise that makes sense. I was like, okay. It's a new business. What do you think makes sense? She's like, $100. I was like, $100 what? Right? Like $100 now and we're done? And she's $100 a month. I was like, okay, that's fine. You want $100 a month. I've got to figure out how to make that work. Here's my part of the negotiation. I never want to hear about it again. So I call it hush money. And she's made it very clear as she's sort of seen things grow a little bit more, that rent is going up, as she says. The recent deal that I did with kind of that bulk buyout, and we can talk about that later, I'm sure. I told her about 2 weeks earlier that I know that you want the rent to go up. I'm still not at a place where I think it's comfortable to be doing that. But if I can see that this happens 2-3 times in a row, at least 2, that this is not just a one and done from building a business and operating at that model and scale, then I will be happy to up the rent, because at that point, the hourly rate should go up a little bit. So this is potentially her last month of getting her $100 a month, at which point
Okay.
it will go into an increased level. She has been largely good. One of the things I just started looking at today, though, is she's not wrong. The consumption of space is large, right? And this,
Well, yeah, especially for sealed. Yeah.
oh, and she looks at this space and goes, "You have the whole room. This was a bedroom before, and now it's nothing, right?" And I said, and I was telling her that like she had seen 50 flat rate boxes, so like 350,000 plus cards in my office, in my normal day job home office. She was like, "What the hell are we doing here?" And I said, "Well, it's going out the door, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, but what the hell are we doing here?" And we had a very good conversation about it. And I said, I could potentially get a storage unit, but then I can't up the rent. So which one do you want? And so she was like, "I need you to figure out how to do both and quick." So I did take a look today at some local storage options that are relatively inexpensive, that if all it's doing is holding the bulk for a future bulk buy, like it doesn't really matter. I just need it to hold space. But it would get it out of my office space and off of kind of the main floor. She's given up on this room in particular, but she would like to not have it become bleed through in every room, which I do respect.
Storage location instead of like a separate office space for you entirely, so that she can get a room back.
Oh, she's not getting this room back.
Yeah.
No. As I told her, I was like, "Listen, I've modified this entire room to be what I need it to be for the business, right? And it would be more costly and a bigger pain in the ass to turn this back into a bedroom that we didn't use for 5 years anyway."
Sure. Yeah.
It's
it's where I'm at.
Yeah, it's a basement bedroom no one was using. I think in 5 years we used it 4 times. Like that's not a room anymore that needs to be a bedroom.
Right.
It's also at the time I remember thinking this originally because it's a bedroom with 2 closets. Like and I have no idea why. And now it's perfect, right? Because I got a closet and I got a closet over here. It's a ton of storage space on top of the shelf that I've put in and everything else. So it ended up being a perfect location. What I'm missing is things like if I really want to do a lot more shipping of sealed and things like I would like to do, I don't really have a lot of space for all the materials that you need. You see these guys like DJ from DJ's Poke Center and everything else where they have like a full garage of just boxes, right? And it's like, I have a shed space out there, not far. So it wouldn't be like a hard, let me go get the right box or anything. But it's not climate controlled. And I feel like that would just completely
defeat the purpose. Yeah.
So I've got to figure that out and quick, because I'm running out of space and that's kind of where we get back to the point of when I was telling her. She was like, "How could you be running out of space?" I was like, "There's a lot of stuff here, but I don't know what to tell you."
Well, is it actually $1 million worth of stuff? I mean, that had to be a whole conversation in and of itself, even if you did sell your comic book collection.
So no, it's not. So the misnomer here is I'm $1 million in debt. That's real. It's probably a quarter of that.
Okay.
Is into the business. And the rest is just life and student loans. I went to school for 10 years. So,
so you're taking everything and just saying this business is going to get us out of this situation.
Yeah, that's kind of how I look at it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Because here's the thing. It's all very real. It's my debt, right? I have to repay that. And the government did me no favors this month when they told me what the up of the charge was about to become. So, I really do need it to work, right? And so I've explained it in the past of like, there's this wall of fire behind me, and the distance between me and it is that it is always moving just as I am always moving with it. The distance between me and it is how much money can I put behind me that keeps feeding the fire, but keeps it away from me. But otherwise, if I don't have enough money, it starts getting closer and closer and closer to me. And so I'm always trying to outrun that wall of fire. Now, the business debt is real, but it is also something where if I sold everything in inventory, even at percent, I could clear that out, and that would just be back to square one with regards to my original debt, which is mostly student loans. I would have learned a lot, but I would not have gained what I'm trying to build. So,
yeah, and it as you deployed whatever the amount of capital was, obviously maybe it's worth $250K today. hopefully spend a little bit less because the way
A little less.
Pokemon has appreciated. Yeah. Um, like, is that something that you deployed pretty much all at once when you decided to go all in on the business, or is that something that just was slowly deployed and then it became the business?
Um, hmm. I would say gradually and then all at once. So I followed kind of the collector's journey of like somebody that's new that tends to get into a hobby. They're like, oh, I'll get one of these or I'll get some of this. And then
Do a little bit of everything.
and
Yeah.
then they get a lot really quickly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So again, going back to fantasy football, I started with one dynasty league, ended up with 11, right? Like that's not a healthy balance either, right? So and in the last year, I've pared down to I think like 6 because it just wasn't a healthy balance anymore. I also wasn't finding joy in it, but the reality is early on, because of the lack of capability and knowledge, I wasn't scoring enough to really spend a lot. And then as I gained more information, I was then spending a ton more because now it was like, well, I know this is a good deal and I know I should be buying now. And I know right now is the good time. And so it was like, let me deploy that capital now. Like, 151 booster bundle displays. It was like, that's not going to be $1,000 forever. Right. Like, or I went around all summer and bought as many 151 bundles as I could when they were like $50 last summer because I was absolutely adamant that this was one of those things that I was going to make a play on. And so I would say by about July, August, September, as I got more information, and then it supercharged as soon as the Discord went live and way more information was available. Overall, though, different ways to hit online, just having the information that there was an online drop, right? Like you could find a way to spend very quickly.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Spending money isn't the hard part for any of this.
No, hitting an MSRP is, but
yeah. So, okay, you've got the inventory, you have the infrastructure, but to kind of paint the picture of you building this over the last year plus, you also have employees, do you not?
So I don't have employees, and the tax man needs to know that. I have people that work with me on a few things, and I realize I'm
like
more
partners have their own businesses or hobbyists.
Hobbyists who don't want to scratch and claw for everything that they get, and are willing to put in effort in trade. So,
but yeah, let's talk about that and this I'm sure will lead into sourcing as a whole. So I'm sure all these things kind of hold your whole business up. So not employees who you're compensating in other ways because go on.
Well, primarily because cash on and tax reasons, right?
Yep.
But the reality is that's not what they wanted. They didn't want cash because cash isn't necessarily useless to them, but what they want is the cardboard, right? And what they want is their time back. And so so I would say there's a couple categories of this. I have somebody who I've called my bulk partner, and I think of her that way on the server. She's known as Ek. She's wonderful. She has her own sort of operation, and she came pretty early on where she didn't want to get squeezed out of this whole thing. And I'm not quite the 800-pound gorilla, but I'm close. And so at least in my particular area, and I think she saw like, well, if I don't speak up now, I could be pushed out of being able to do something I want to do. But if I work with him, maybe like there's a way to do things. And so our operation is such that I can I trust her. That's the first thing. The second thing is I do weekly pop-ups and she's there to help. If I can't make one for any particular reason, if I'm running late.
Define a pop-up just real quick.
Yeah.
Because this is a different, I know a lot of my audience deals in singles. So
yeah. So every week I host is a really loose word here. I push out to mostly my server, but like in theory, I could do it to Instagram, YouTube, whatever. It's more useful on the server. Hey, I'm going to this location for anywhere between 2 and 5 hours. And I give them the location, the times, and say, if you want to bring sealed singles, whatever for trade or cash, if you want to bring your bulk, I will be here for the next 5 hours. And on average, I take home, I don't know, $1,000 worth of sealed, another $500 worth of singles, and between 20 and 50,000 bulk cards on almost a weekly basis. Just by saying this is where I'm going to be. And to be fair, right? Like I also have I have a captured audience, right? They trust me. And that is a factor that Eck wanted in on, was there's a trust factor of they drop it off to me. They don't. The nice part of the program that I would have been running is that you don't have to sort, you don't have to do anything. Just bring me your bulk, right? And that had a lot of benefits to people who were like, the reason I haven't done the bulk with other stores is they wanted it sorted and everything and categorized. And it was,
they want counts of whatever it is for whatever rates. Yeah, I got you.
Listen, I want it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
My part of the niche, the way I found my way in was I looked at all of the local LCSs, looked online, who was buying for what, that they could go to a competition on locally, Facebook Marketplace, whatever. And I just built my rate card accordingly, right? And at first it was a cash only operation, right? My first 2 months, it was cash only. And I felt like, I know you're getting technically more in trade by going to this XYZ store, but they're also adding a 30% uptick on the market price, right? And what I noticed was, okay, number one, you're getting, let's just say it was the commons, you're getting 2 pennies per card in trade from them, but they're adding 30% markup, and you have to use it same day. You cannot hold an account with them. And I know that they have the ability to hold an account, right? And so my program was, okay, I have a cash position. I hadn't done trade yet. And I was probably 50%, but I was offering cash, right? If they were offering 2 pennies for a card, I was offering a penny, right? And that was sort of how I kind of justified the cash difference versus trade. And that got probably in January and February. Some of that was I did a card show, which I would highly recommend. There are ways to do it. And we can talk about that if you ever want. But I did the card show. That was probably about 30,000 of the cards that I took in on a single day at the show.
You vended the show?
I call it reverse vending, but yeah. Okay. I took bulk at the show. And my sort of pitch was, and the showrunners let me have the table for free. And because I was offering something that they didn't have elsewhere, they needed somebody to run their like kid section, right? And they had this whole trade program that they were going to do for kids. And so if I was willing to sort of also handle that, my table would be free, and so I wouldn't have to eat the margins. And actually, the number one use case, there were some people who came from server. There were some people, I don't know, through mild advertising came because they saw some of the advertising about it. But the number one people that showed up with bulk was the actual vendors, because they wanted cash out on that day. And so somebody who brought like 25,000 in bulk, which was the majority of what we took in that day, we counted and sourced and everything else for every card, brought an Excel sheet that we could calculate exactly, have a report out, and then we cashed them out same day. I think he dropped it off at like 9, and we cashed him out by noon for 25,000 cards. And he gave me a shout out later that day. He was like, dude, because I had the extra, I don't know, $200 or whatever it was, I was able to buy this Blastoise, and that Blastoise then flipped. And he was like, my bulk turned from one deal into another. I ended up with $400 more than I would have had.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, so there's a real,
it all snowballs. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. And in the vending environment, when you're buying at X and selling at Y, like it was an immediate effect for him. So we did that. And again, I was getting traction, but I was like, I feel like I'm offering a pretty good deal, but not getting enough traction. And I know that these 2 stores are still getting a ton of bulk. And it wasn't my mission to screw them, but it was my mission to be like a gnat a little bit. Like I want people to come to me instead of having to go to the stores. How do I make that happen? So I'm back to the drawing board, and I realized that the thing that people are doing is trade. So how do I make the numbers work? And how are they making their numbers work? And then how do I make it so that it is, in still theory, profitable for me? And that's where I really invested into my use of AI as just a tool to better understand quicker, to build the reports, to understand the math behind things. And from that, I realized I have all this inventory that I've gathered for 6 to 8 months, right? And it's all appreciated in value. So some of these things I'm already double on, right? And that means instead of paying cash, they're having to get to a higher level number in
Mhm.
order to achieve. And my market niche became, you don't have to sort. I will give you a 5% discount in market if you're able to hit 95% of pay in just bulk. So you can kind of close that gap in cash just a little bit. But I truly wanted people to bring all of the whatever they were buying it in bulk. And then the other, so you didn't have to pay 5% discount off of market on the trade. And the last piece was you could hold a ledger with me. So I would maintain a ledger so that if you, I don't know, you had $400, but you were really chasing something else that was much, much bigger, that little piece of just, oh, I don't have to use it all today, and get a bunch of Journey Together by, bundles or whatever. And that was another thing. I didn't have like a lot of high end singles. So really it was more in like the sealed area. Once
Mhm.
I got more singles, I wasn't surprised. I was a little, I was impressed, but a little like, oh, I'm not really set up well for this. So I had to figure out like, how do I know how to put on collector, and that's what we did for a while, was put my sealed and my singles that were worth a damn on collector so that people could sort of pre-shop what they were looking for. But it became kind of a pain in the ass to just manage as like a, oh, well, now I forgot I have to take this card that I already sold. Because sometimes people are just, they're at the pop-ups and they're like, hey, I see that you have this card. Can I buy it? And I'm like, sure, right? Not the intent, but sure. Um, so anyway, a lot there. So the pop-ups are a weekly endeavor to make it, one, accessible for people, and two, so I don't have to chase my tail. I don't go around to 50 locations. I go to one location for a few hours, and people who can come. And the other thing is, you see some daisy chains built where, like, I have a guy who about 45 minutes away, and so what he'll do is he'll work with the people who are also 45 minutes away from the server and bring things to me
Oh,
from.
that's nice. Yeah.
So, and it'll be like, all right, this lot is X and this lot is Y, and this is my stuff that I was going to meet with you about anyway. Now going back to kind of the people and the employees and the
Yeah.
non-employees. Egg is my partner in bulk, and my way of helping was she gets the trust profile of me, and which is good for her because she was having to make deals sort of in parking lots for vintage stuff where you really want to make sure the conditions are right. It's a lot easier for me when I'm picking up, a bunch of EXs from Scarlet Violet, for which most of it's going to be near mint anyway. But I can be like, oh, that's not near mint, and it's very easy. But when you're really when most of the stuff and she wants to touch in the vintage market is going to be lightly played or moderately played, and the difference in those conditions is could be dollars, could be hundreds of dollars, right? And so what she got from me was this kind of umbrella of authority to say, I'm going to need time to condition these. And if you drop off with me, trust that I will make sure that it's done, and you will get a report out the same way you would get from Ryan on to include the conditioning so that you get a true value, and it could be all of a sudden that's a near mint copy and I'm going to pay you a bit more. But so that's what she gets from my end of things. For what I get is somebody that, hey, I can't make it to the pop-up for 15 minutes. Can you make sure that this is done? Hey, can you help me unsleeve these EXs because otherwise I'm going to kill myself when I get home, right? While we're there.
Yep.
Anyway. We also have just grown a friendship from it, right? We spend a couple hours every week and we just chit chat, right? Sometimes we get lunch either before or after or whatever. And the other piece that we've worked into now is two other elements of this. Again, trust, where I've given her a 5-row box of some of my most, let's call it expensive stuff. And she goes through it for me because I don't really want to. This is all about time at this point. We've come up with a percentage that we've agreed upon. She sends everything on my behalf, on my account. It is all through the Fanatics program. And the idea is get it graded, get it moved. I know what I paid for it. And for the most part, we're talking about bulk, right? Like not heavy. We're not talking about, maybe there's like a $25 card on occasion if it was worth it, but we're talking about reverses and hollow reverses. And we're talking about illustration rares that are $2, but they look clean. If they look clean and they get a pristine, then that's a $50 swing, right? That kind of stuff. And so incumbent upon her is I gave her a box and just said, make this multiply, right? And so she found 100 cards. The gem rate wasn't great, right? Just to be upfront. I think it was sub 40%. But here's the back end of that. That stuff is about to go live. I had the numbers within 21 days of CGC 9 or whatever. I'm not going to touch these cards ever again. They're all going to go be auctioned off by somebody else. And separately, if I wanted, if in this lot as a part of education as they go through, if the 8s, 9s, and let's just say some of the 10s are just like too low value and they don't get even above the cost to grade, which grading with Fanatics is very cheap. If they don't meet that level, then on the next iteration, what I'm going to do is have those cards returned to me, because my bulk buyer will pay at least what my cost was for those slabs. That as long as they're an 8 or above, he'll take them, and I'll just get my cost back. So it's sort of low risk. Yeah, low risk and high reward. And so because I have that backstop now, which I didn't have at the time, and had I known that, I probably would have already pulled a few. But I said, you know what, let's just run it and see how the auctions do, because I really don't want to have to deal with that process at all. But if I can take risk off, go for it. And I told her I don't particularly care, like full send 500 if that's what makes sense. But we're going to see here quickly. They're estimating a value of, I want to say 1,500 for what those slabs will, and I spent 920 for the slabbing process, maybe another, I don't know, 30 to 40 on the cards themselves. And so we're not under 1,000 and maybe, a 50% return for no real minimal effort on my part. Right. And yes, she will get a part of that, but I gained all the time. I have nothing to do in this. She sends it for me. They take care of it for me. And at the back end, if that doesn't work, I will have them on the next version of this. I'll just have them send me the stuff, and then I'm still not doing anything. So try and recapitalize my time as much as possible, which gets to the non-employee employees. 2 different individuals. One who she was somebody I picked up on when she dropped off her bulk to me. It was the way in which she organized her bulk, and it was so pervasively smart. And it was like as I'm opening the box, I could see how she thought through these things. And so I just clocked that when that happened. And when I was sort of in not quite a place of desperation, but I could see the road ahead and going like, oh, if I don't get some help here, we're gonna be in bad shape. I reached out and made the offer, and we came to terms on not an hourly rate, but a rate of completion. Right. It's based on a 10,000 card batch. So every 10,000 cards that she has to handle, she gets a certain amount of trade credit with me, and she gets a percentage off. So if she brings that trade credit, she's also not paying full market either. So her credit goes further. And at this point, she's already banked in a month about $1,000 in trade credit for her effort.
Wow.
And the thing that she has not done, that she would not like to do probably either, and this is where the other individual who has been very helpful, he actually wants Magic product, which is, brother, I could have him do work all day and be well ahead, right? The woman who helps me in this capacity, my sifter, she finds all the playables that I want, and then I bring it to the other guy, and he sorts them all so that I've never ever once sorted for TCG player. And so
you're gonna have people like their blood is boiling right now hearing you say that.
The first time I did this, which showed me a level of success and understanding of like, oh, this is easy enough to train, was my next door neighbor. His son, I realized I found, he saw me in a line. It was a hope line, and he was very disappointed that he was like, oh, I'm not going to get Pokemon products. And I didn't realize he was into Pokemon. He literally is my next door neighbor. He's 9, nice kid. And it was a extended release. It was the the poster collections and stuff like that. And so I gave him the stuff when I got home, and I talked with the father afterwards, and he was like, I didn't know you were into this. I was like, come over to my house sometime, we'll have a conversation. And so I showed him the room, we walked through things, and I was sitting on 30,000 cards that I had not sorted and desperately wanted to, but just didn't have time. And so I said, I'm going to make you an offer. You take it to your son if you want. This is easy enough that it's almost literally matching the card art to the card art, right? We're not talking about anything very hard, because I was focused originally and still on the playables for Pokey, for TCG Player. That is all I put up. I do not put up anything else. I would say the first couple weeks I put up things like Pikachus and stuff like that I did not know whether they were playable or not, but I knew that they would sell. At this point, yeah, at this point now, though, I'm just moving those to eBay. I'd rather them move for a premium and than sell fast, because one dude bought like 220 Ascended Heroes Pikachus from me in one go, and I was like, well, I probably could have made more money on eBay if I had just done this slower, right? But when you pay a penny, right, like it is what it is. And so he sorted 30,000 cards, this 9-year-old, over about a week. And we came to an agreement of what that would be worth. And he took that in packs, and he was very happy to have worked for his effort. I was very proud of him, frankly, because it's a lot of effort. The family all kind of chipped in. The mother did not kill the husband or me. Their dining room was taken over for a week, right?
I'm sure, yeah.
And I asked him things along the way, like, what have you learned? And he was like, this isn't easy, but, I'm starting to get into the hang of it. The mom and I were having a conversation about, what have you learned? She was like, I like some of these, cute cards or whatever. And I told them along the way, I've told anybody who's ever done any hand sifting or sorting or anything, if you see something and you like it, just take it. As long as it's counted in terms of I'm paying for these things. So as long as it's counted for that person that I need to pay, I do not care. I'm paying a penny. If you really want 10 pennies worth of cards, take it. So he wound up with his pile. We went over that. He really likes Vaporeon. We had a good time with it. And so all I had to do was take my card counter and, run the machine through and be like, okay, I have 50 Hildas or whatever. I have 200 Pikachus, and just get the numbers and then plug that into the CSV I think I actually used their insert, like their manual insert to start. And then I used the CSV from there. But that first launch on TCG Player was, I think in the first 10 days, I made like $1,500 because it was just play. I mean, it was
all the playables. Yeah,
it was 4,000 cards in like a week and a half. But a lot of these were going out in like 200 lots. Like it was funny. It was like I get like 1 card sales and then 200 card sales, and that was like the it of it. And that's right around. I had been paying attention to like Phantom and others talking about card uploader and the Rico scanner, and I bought one. I also have the Lasix Innovations 1000 scan thing, and I've play tested it. My video that I'll be working on after this actually is I've never actually successfully listed to eBay, so all my inventory has not been eBay.
How is that possible?
So I did.
You sell on eBay?
I don't yet.
I thought you had an eBay link.
I do have an eBay link.
You just have nothing on there yet?
Yeah. So
okay.
And everybody gets on my shit about it too. So trust me, I get it. The first day I was going to do it was right before I was going to launch. I was planning this big launch for the July 4th, and I was at least going to get like 1,000 cards up there, the Meteor stuff. And I'm doing it. Ek is on with me, and she's laughing at me because I'm screaming at this thing at this point, right? Like, card uploader's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm using my buddy Loomis Live, my buddy, his name's Sam, but I'm using his tool to integrate with card uploader scans to push things. And what he had built,
which I really need to look at that, by the way. I know you've told me to do it.
Yeah, it's incredible what he's built. And I think you'll like the vibe. And anyway, so I'm using the tool again. Nothing wrong with this tool. Nothing wrong with card uploader. And I'm uploading these things, and I screwed up something along the way. And this is where I got frustrated. I wasn't able to change things. Like wasn't able to readily and easily change. Like, well, I mess up either a card uploader or a Loomis, and now I can't just modify this thing. I have to delete it out, and that's
Yeah,
just
you got to tear down and rebuild. That's everything. Yeah.
and and so I was like, this is just what the and it was the stupidest thing. I had a full art Prism Tower, and it was registered as a reverse hollow, and it was like, well, like that's not it, right? Like, and
Mhm.
I'm going to probably get roasted for this, both in the comments here and in my actual actions. But I do not want, and maybe this is probably important for people to hear. In general, I do not want the buyer if they are unwilling to buy because I am showing the stock images of something. I do not want the buyer because I don't want the headache of 50 questions around the scans. I am selling you the condition of that card. You are working with me because you wish to do so. And if you don't, there are 50 million other people on eBay, and there are 100,000 people on TCG Player. I understand the reason people use scans for Pokemon. But my thoughts on this is either you're buying the condition or you're not. But you're not. I'm not selling a gradable copy. If I was selling a
Right.
gradable copy, I would just grade the damn thing.
Mhm.
And I also don't want the headaches of 50 questions, right? Like I've seen, I think it was like TJ talk about this. Like he gets like, oh my God, like the difference between TCG Player and eBay is like you get all these questions, and at some point I think you just learn to ignore them. But
Yeah.
what made me upset that night was I launched, I don't know, again, like 100, and all of a sudden eBay is like ding, 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 ding. I was like, what is happening right now? I felt like I was under fire by my email that like all these listings were coming. And I was like, why is this a thing? Why am I getting a notification for every item I'm listing? Because if I'm listing 250,000 cards, I do not want 250,000 emails. Like, how do we shut this off?
Yeah.
And so I just never came back to it yet.
Okay.
I have no room at the inn. That I am officially in overflow at this point, and so that goes back to Eck, where so there's nothing in paper, but inked a deal recently with her that just said, I will give you my backlog, everything that I can't keep. Now in the future, I'll be able to backlog internally, but anything I can't keep, you get to take, and we'll operate like a commission based, right? Or like or whatever that's called. And so she's specified the cards that are in my lot, so to speak, so that she can maintain good order on what sells that came from me. She doesn't have to pay any cost on them, right? We take the cost out of the sale if it does sell, and then I just get recapitalized if it sells on her site. So
It's essentially consignment then with
yeah,
her then.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And that's again buying time and versus I could move it
Yeah.
to a bulk buyer, but I figure give her an opportunity to see what she kind of damage she can do, and then also see if this is more profitable. If it doesn't move, I can just move it to the bulk buyer, and I'm still going to make something. I'm just not going to make nearly as much margin as what she may be able to, even
Sure.
the
Yeah.
difference in the compensation structure. But um, so yeah, and so my last sorter, so the sifter gets paid in Poke Trade, my sorter gets paid in Magic Trade, and I have never sorted for TCG Player. So yes, I am the enemy within. Yeah, I don't want.
Honestly, it's amazing. Like this is the part that since the beginning I've been like, how is this guy doing? I don't get it. Like this is it's so creative, but it's also so simple. I mean, the fact that you do these pop-ups and you kind of built an audience before really doing any of this to make the pop-ups possible. You solved sourcing bulk, singles, sealed just through a weekly event. And
Mhm.
then you figured out how to compensate
Yeah.
people who work for the business, not necessarily for you, but they work for the business for their own reward
Mhm.
to get further in the hobby. And it's incredible. And I just can't remember if it's out yet because I pre-record everything that I do. But to me, the relationship side of any business is kind of the thing that I feel like falls by the wayside when we're all just sitting in front of a computer and we're locked in our spare bedrooms doing this stuff online. And
Yeah.
it's like you're very isolated. And this is the part to me that is just absolutely amazing to figure out. It's not like you have a brick and mortar. It's not like there's distribution of the works. It's not like, and yet you have all those things through your network that you built.
Yeah,
I mean, it's incredible.
and listen, I appreciate that, and it does. I've taken what I do in work, in my real job, right? I've taken the skill sets there, and so kind of the somebody was asking me like, "You're not really $1 million in debt from the business." I said, "I'm $1 million in debt, but also like all those skills were learned through that $1 million journey, right? Whether it be all the years of education and failing upwards in that, and learning the job that I have and the skill sets that that has, and it all of that is built into this, but." Again, I negotiate a lot for a living, right? I figure out how to deploy new systems. I work with developers. I have to figure out how to work within the margins and get the most out of people in general, right? And so, um, you know, finding for me what is the art of the possible within what is that person's interest. Some people, this is a real life example of something that I'm dealing with at work. I have a gentleman that I want to get a raise and a promotion and a new job title and the works. And I'm probably going to have to choose between those options from a corporate standpoint. And I've told them that this individual, while another individual may be more motivated by money, and we all have that need, don't get me wrong, this individual is going to be more motivated by the praise of being recognized, and that has more to do with title and than anything else. So if you can't let me have all of this, you got to let me have this, right? And so finding that the person who's doing the sorting is into Magic, I was like, dude, I have so much Magic product, I could pay you for out in Magic product for fucking ever, right? Like that will never stop. And he's looking back at it like, dude, I'd rather it's free rips. Now, this is a guy who admitted to me the other day he's ripped like 40, not collector booster boxes, thank God, but 40 collector boosters of Marvel superheroes. And so he's a ripper, right? Like he wants, but now he's trying to build a little bit of a seal, but also wants to rip too. And so he looks at like, if I can get out what I put in, and he's doing it with his stepson, which is another thing that's common, is that like you're doing it with family, and it makes it a little easier. The first lot was a little rough. The first sort, I hadn't condensed down. And now I've got 50 SKUs for TCG player. But the first sort that he did, the first one that the kid did was like 300 SKUs. It was ridiculous. Then I got down to like 180, which is what he did for the first one. That was a little rough for him. And then this most recent one was, there are multiple playable cards in this. It's probably 20,000 cards. I just need you to find the 50 SKUs and get them in sort and then set order. And that is it. Alpha set order. But it's only 50 cards, so it's not like that much. And then the rest of them, just put into a box. I will deal with them with my bulk buyer. That's it. All of this, to be fair, none of this is possible if I don't have the bulk buyer. And that's the difference that I think I see a lot in the space, is there are people who are willing to work with the bulk buyer and people who are unwilling to work with the bulk buyer because they believe that they're going to get more margin selling and listing everything. And I am just not somebody who, for me, it does not make my brain happy. It would not make my brain happy. And the plus up that you can get if you just get to enough volume is better than the time investment and the risk on this too, right? Like there's a risk. I did kind of a blowout sale for the new lot of the 50 SKUs on TCG Player. I wanted to hit the goal of paying off the lot within like the first week or something. And I was not quite there. So on day 7, I opened it up. So like 10 of those SKUs, which were important SKUs, special red card and prism tower and ultra balls and air balloons and a couple of like real playables. But I had so many of them. I was like, I can afford to put these at 15 cents, right? And that's not the floor I want, but I can do it. But I did the back test on the math. That means I was making roughly, depending on the size of the order, between 8 and 10 cents, right? But the risk on for what is effectively a little more than a 2x what I get from my bulk buyer, like the risk on is not worth that. Yeah. And so I then throttled it back to the floor price of 25 cents for certain cards. And then I sort of incrementally worked between that 25 and 40 range, and then some higher end cards in the $2, $3, $4 range. But I did it because I wanted to test it. it worked like a charm. Like it got the job done, but when you take risk into the equation, it's just not worth it. Because if any one of those packages goes wrong, I'm already back to what I would have earned by just moving it to the bulk buyer at that point.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And that's how I think of these things. And so I know,
Well, it keeps the money moving too.
well, that's a big thing, right? Like again, last, not even last week, Monday, $13,000, of which, the margin is larger than you'd expect. Yeah, it's much larger than you'd expect. And that's just the thing that I don't think people understand is like, yes, you're getting great margin, 200% sometimes on bulk, right? But I don't need to hit a home run or a grand slam every single time. I can get a bunch of on bases and still score. And so I think I think Bronze God, he did like a big bulk sellout back in like January, February or something like that, if I remember. And in my head, I was like, dude, you should just keep doing that. Just keep doing that. Just keep flushing it through the system. Find the things that are worth a damn and then flush. And that gets a bad rap too, because I you know what? I don't know what these people do with it. I suspect I know what they do with it. It's not my business. But if I had to guess, I don't think they're lighting it on fire, right? And so, you know, I know that in the hobby though that there are people who are like, well, why can't I bring it to this guy? Well, because you don't have 300,000 cards, right? You don't have a pallet of cards, right? Or 100,000 cards. But also, there are people who have moral dilemmas with that, and I look at it and go, this is a business model, and my moral dilemma is to feed my family and take care of the things in my life. I didn't rob anybody. I paid people for what they got, and I sold it to somebody else who wanted it. It's that simple. But
that's reselling. That's what it is.
Yeah.
In any business.
Yep. Yeah. And by the way, I made the joke about this, and we were laughing about this independently in our DMs. But like being called a scalper with a bunch of bulk in the back of my car, I was like,
right.
Like I don't know what you're talking about, man. Like if you knew how much time is invested in this, and that's the other thing. I don't think people. There's a lot of YouTube that's spent around building a business, mine, yours, everybody else's, right? And it's incredibly useful for those who understand the truth and the reality of what they're getting into. But I spend 4 or 5 hours a night on this, right? At least. And I don't start until 9. I don't normally go to bed until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So,
same.
And and it's like, guys, you could do it. I have a guy who I don't want to say I've been training, but teaching and talking to that. Very personable, like him a lot, call him a friend. I know he sees what I'm doing and he's like, man, but he has zero interest. And I think he's smart to not have the interest because I don't think he would fare well in the long run. I don't think it would make him happy to do 4 or 5 hours a night. And
it's not for everyone. It's a grind. It's not glamorous.
It is. Yeah, it's not glamorous. But that is also, so somebody, my neighbor, but somebody else asked me recently, like, why do you do this? I was like, because it's the trash. And you know what? Waste management still gets paid a lot of damn money because nobody else wants to do it. Right. And
I just can't turn it off. That would be my answer is like, I have no off switch. It's not like I don't make enough money in my regular job. It's not about the money for me. I just need something to do.
Well, so, okay. I don't know about your situation, but my family is asleep at 9 o'clock. I am not going to bed by 9 o'clock. There's no, you'd have to drug me to put me in bed by 9 o'clock. So the alternative was I was playing video games, watching shows, and dicking off, right? And now I feel like I'm building something that's positive. And I've told this story before, but like why bulk, right? Like 2 things happened. First, I needed an out. I got heavy. I've sold on Whatnot. I just did a rip and ship on Whatnot. But I got heavy into Whatnot in the summer. I justified it as sourcing, right? Like, well, and in some cases I was, right? But other cases it was definitely like, what are you doing? And I had amassed both locally and on Whatnot $4,000 worth of CGC slabs. And over like a 2.5 month period. And I looked at it myself and was like, what the hell did I? And they're just in a box. I have no idea what I'm going to do with these. I don't want them. They don't bring me any personal joy. I had planned to use them for some sort of a selling program. I'm not going to do that anymore. Now I've just canned like $4,000. So there's a guy on my server, and unfortunately for him, very unfortunately for him, he was robbed recently. And
Yeah.
at gunpoint at a show, every piece of his inventory, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of slabs and probably $100,000 in cash, tons of fucking stuff. And I apologize for any monetization, by the way.
No, you're good.
And he robbed. So we're trying to help him rebuild a little bit, right? We can't rebuild what he's lost entirely, but the community is trying to help. And but in December he helped me. So he buys slabs, and I'm pretty sure he buys slabs for guys like I now work with from the bulk buying side of things. And he said, "Listen, I'm at 70% on CGC to a floor of if it's below $25, it's just this dollar amount." And again, I had so many slabs. I was like, "Buddy, I will take any exit I can get at this point," right? And he said, "Well, if it's trade, I can do more." So we negotiated to 95%, so 70% chop, but I got a little bit of a decrement off of market as well. So it was kind of like getting 75%, not quite, but like kind of. And so I worked on the back end with another vendor on the server, and I just said, "All right, he has some really high end slabs. You get to pick them, but I want cash at 98% of what I'm picking up." And so, and he wanted just high end inventory because he was going to a show. So I turned a $4,000 bad decision over a series of months into $2,950. So even though we were in a down market, I was losing on percentages and everything else. $2,950 was a chop, but it wasn't the end of the world. It was a learned experience, right?
Yeah.
That same guy who I sold the slabs to, about 4 or 5 days later, he's like, "Hey, I don't have cash because you took all my cash, but there's a guy here. He wants to sell an Evolving Skies booster box in an acrylic. It looks good. Do you want it?" I said, "How much?" He's like, $1,700. For $1,700, you can have the money right now. What do you need? And so he was like, "All right, just send me the money. I'll deliver it to him." And so the deal I made with him was push it to the limit at the show, see if it sells. If it sells, you get a commission on it. I'll get a little bit more. You'll learn a little bit for your troubles, and we'll both walk away happy. He did not sell it at the show, and I'm glad he didn't for me, because now it's back up to like $2,600 or whatever. So I made a grand back just in that, right? And then the other, I don't know, $1,000, whatever I had left from $1,250, I pushed into the machine and got out more things, right? And so I am probably net up from that $4,000 mistake. But the lesson learned in all of this was you have to move things, and you have to move things even when you're taking a loss. But the lesson I learned from the individual who helped me with the slabs was people need an exit. People need an exit for the junk that they think is unmovable. And they need somebody who's willing to work with them, be kind to them, help them, and treat them respectfully, which he did in all accounts. He couldn't, he couldn't be my mother and give me a there. He couldn't hug me out and be like, "Oh, we'll just take care of it and give you $4,000. But he did take care of me. And then I saw Phantom's first video, and I laughed more than anything, right? And for me, it was like, oh, this is kind of fun, right? Like I started with bulk. I remember watching Game Vitamins. I remember watching RNG. I remember all these things. But now I need to take a look at this. And so I give Phantom a lot of credit for a lot of things, because for me, it was a reminder that, oh, there's this other side of the hobby that not enough people pay attention to and can be kind of fun. And he was one of the very first people to emphasize that just move it to a bulk buyer. Really, why are you spending so much time with this? Get it out. Like, find the stuff that's worth it. Get it out. And so then my mission became, how do I find a bulk buyer that pays more than what I'm paying for it? And what I have found is the more I have paid for the bulk, the more I have been paid for the bulk I get, because I am getting more in. And so my margin is, I was talking to my brother, who's a finance guy. He was like, "Listen, your margin may not have changed, but your top line revenue is much heavier." Right. And so even though I'm technically offering more now than I've ever offered, I am also getting more out of it in total, in top line, in ROI, and in margin. And that feels counterintuitive than like, oh, I was buying at X and I could be selling it for Y. But yes, you are, but you're getting less quantity for it. And so Phantom gave me a lot of headspace to run with the ideas of things, and has also been a sounding board and a friend in that capacity. We talk not that often, but I would say once a week, just to, hey, what do you think? Or I'm doing this. How you doing? And it reminded me of what that guy with the slabs did, was that some people just need an out, and a lot of people have just a ton of bulk and don't know what the hell to do with it, and don't want to get chopped in half, and don't want to bring it to a store that's also taking 30% for them more, and so that's where I built the program. Was 5% of the market. If it's at least 95% paid, you get to keep a ledger, so you don't have to always worry about like, I don't have enough, so it's not worth it. I want you to bring it to me faster. I don't want you to wait on it forever. My trade versus cash rates, I mean, it's basically the same thing. Like, that's the thing I don't think people have really taken into account. When you take into account the idea that you're buying, this is where your buying pattern becomes important. If you buy at retail, on average, let's just say you buy at retail 50% of what you have, and you buy at market for the other 50%. You're going to roughly end up on let's say $100 of a box, whatever that is, on a $100 basis, at about $75. So it's about a 75%. If you just said straight line for most conservative math, that you're never going to pay more than 80% in cash. You're just not going to do it, right? You're going to source locally on Facebook Marketplace. You're going to offer 80%, and whatever boxes of things that you can get, that's what you're going to get, and that's what you're going to use for trade. Then your high water mark is 80%. If you do the same program, 95, you can do a market. You can do 100% of market. The fact that you're not going over market is going to be appealing to somebody, right? But you don't have to do it the same way where I give a small discount. But if you do it at even just 95%, the difference between paying $15 per thousand and giving somebody credit of $2 per thousand is, to you, because of that margin pickup between what you bought it at and what you sold it at, 0.0001. Wow, 0.000, yeah, 0.0001. Like that's noise. Like that's not even that's not something to track, right? So you paid 1.51 per card or whatever, yeah. And if you're doing it in trade and you're in cash, you're doing 1.5. That 0.1 does add up. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't, but it's not exponential growth either. They get
when you're trading into liquidity.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is another, and that's another thing. I've talked about this recently on a couple videos, but like somebody on the server really wanted a Paldean Phase booster bundle, and they brought me just the shittiest shit of sealed stuff, right? Like whammy tins and Tyranitar tins and God knows whatever, and perfect order and CRI sleeves and some ETBs from Chaos. And they're like, are you sure? I was like, buddy, you're sending this to me for most of it at 70%. I don't have to do much work to make positive on this.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, am I going to move everything? No, but I have another guy that I work with. And I like to work with him because we have a very positive working relationship. It also means I don't have to I have the relationship with him that I get to extend his relationships. I don't have to go to the stores myself. I don't have to deal with the other people. He gets to earn a little bit more. And this is kind of a running theme, is if you are willing to give up just a little bit to have people help you, you will kind of exponentially grow your machine. So I give him X. I tell him, I build a report and I say, I want X. Go get in cash, right? So I put together, I don't know, 50 items, something like that. Again, and I did a YouTube on this, but it was Charizard X, the little orange boxes. It was 6 of these. It was like a few ETBs, a bunch of tins, maybe 1 or 2 bundles, sleeves. It was anything I wanted that was special. But you know what it is to a store that doesn't have distro? Access for a wall's worth of product. And so tomorrow I get the last payment. The day after I gave him that product, I got 1,000 of the 1,800 that I was in theory owed, right? The next few days I got 400. Tomorrow I'll get the last. So within a week, I took a bunch of stuff nobody wanted that I got for mostly 70, 75, 80% and turned it into $1,800 cash. And all I had to do was and he earned off of it too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think some of the way he earns off of it, to be fair, and I don't care, is he takes something for himself, either something to keep sealed or rip or just have fun with. And that's his way of profiting, is that he didn't have to pay for them, right? I don't care. He pays me. I give him the report. I tell him what I want from it, and he pays me.
Yeah.
But that's the machine working for itself at that point.
And it's another example, and it was something I brought up recently too, that we're all kind of selling and playing in the same space, but that doesn't necessarily make us competitors.
No.
More often than not, it's like a partnership, because someone's business could very much complement what you're trying to do, and there's a way for it to be win-win on both sides.
100%. Yeah. So I think that needs to be highlighted for more people.
Yeah, I agree.
This should be a competition, in so much as there's only so many dollars, there's only so many eyes, there's only so many ways to get the impressions on eBay so that they buy my card versus your card. And even if my card is for slightly higher price or lower price, it doesn't really matter. We are technically all vying for the same amount of eyeballs, the same amount of wallets. But if you operate from a scarcity mindset, you are going nowhere. This is, from the consignment deal that I was talking about earlier with Eck. I'll be gracious and not share what the deal of it is, but somebody was asking me, like, why would you do that? Like, why just put it in storage? And then when you get to it, I was like, because the percentage of something is better than the percentage of nothing.
And zero, yeah. Yep.
Right? Like, they get something out of it, but I got a lot more out of it than zero, right? Like, what does it matter to me at that point? Now, I will tell you,
put your money to work.
Yeah. Exactly. I've had 2 people offer to effectively run my eBay store because I have failed to list anything, and that's become the running joke. And I have been unwilling to do that. And there's mostly brand and customer service reasons for that. And not to say that these people would do a bad job, but I don't know enough to know whether or not I would feel comfortable long term. And also, I am at a place where I don't think, if it's going to be one person that does it, it's going to be me, because I'm going to it's mine, and therefore I'm going to have to put the work in to do it. Anything beyond that is I need like an army, right? Like, I need 5 people, right, to do these things. I need machines to help me do these things. And in the absence of that, you're asking a lot of a person. And I'd rather spread load it out to employees where they're not getting a percentage, but they're getting well paid. And that's the next goal. Is I do want to get to employees. Not just, those who are doing kindness and trade, but like, I want to get to a place where I've got 2 or 3 machines. I've got people who are picking. I've got people who are packing. I have been accused of dragging my feet because I don't actually like the selling portion. I love the selling portion. I just don't like picking and packing the damn orders, right? Like that is not.
You're doing that part on your own, right? Or
that is the one part I do on my own. Yes. And there are times where it's fun, but I am not nearly as effective at that as I would like to be. And if I could, I've already worked the math. I do that as a tendency, but I want to get I need to see it in action first. I will have 2 of the Roca sifters come pretty soon. Was that like September? I dove on 2 of those bad boys real quick because I realized the sheer amount. And I think
you might need more than 2.
Well, so yes, but, and this is where it comes down to, I want to see how those actually operate. And then I want to see from a scaling, like, do they actually do 3,000 cards, or do they only do 1,000? Right.
Right.
The flip of that is I also have the card mill if it ever actually shows up at any of our doors. And I would.
You jumped on that too. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
I bought 2.
I got 1,
but 1 sifter.
Yeah, I got 1 because the tray was small. And I think it's.
I got multiple trays for that reason. Yep.
Yeah, I got whatever the ghost package or something was. I can't remember.
Oh, you upgraded. I think I got the 2 blue ones is what I did.
Okay, so I I liked the idea. I wanted to support it, but as a person who has been burned by many Kickstarters, I did not want to go into that many.
Did Ashes of Creation get you too?
No, but I mean, I've been burned by quite a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
whereas Roca Sifter, I knew who to sue. So I'm looking forward to the Roca Sifter. My biggest thing is like most of my sift problems is like just taking the hollows and reverses out of the commons, right? Like I don't need it to do much more. But that leads me to the next machine, right? And so I will have the Roca Sifters. I will probably keep them. If it turns out that I move to a different operating model where the sifters themselves are less valuable than the machines I will work with, I'll probably just work with my bulk partner and be like, hey, take over the operating cost of this, pay me half, and you can have it, right, for your business, right? But between the fight was this the Rico and the other, what I want is 3 of the Sword Swift mini sifters, because from a price point standpoint, there's massive value there. If it does what it says it does, and for what I do, which is just simple sort sift of literally, is it a hollow? Is it a reverse? Is it a Cosmo? Is it an EX? Is it a common? Is it any one of these 50 commons? You know, like if it can do that, if it can do what my person that I'm paying is doing in trade, I should say, I will have traded out what she's doing with her time. Then it's about, okay, I need you for 15 minutes an hour to load the 15 minutes an hour. You're going to spend loading 3,000 cards in and pulling those cards and putting them into the correct version of whatever, bucket that they belong in, to take them out of the machine and move them. And if she can do that, then the rest of the 45 minutes, and this doesn't have to be her, it could be an employee, it could be anybody.
Sure.
Could be spent on picking and packing. And now I've got a full hour's worth of work, but I'm doing everything within the business operations. And then I can get my hands out of the thing I do not like doing, to be fair. So that is the next step. But to do that, I would have to move into an actual space. Now, that's where I've been hesitant to pull the trigger. I need to see consistent movement upwards before I'm willing to do that. And right now, I've had a very good month, but I am unwilling to invest into a lease of, for me, the best I could come up with in this area is a year lease at probably $1,400 a month. But we're talking like a 10 by 20 room.
I was gonna say that still doesn't sound bad, but yeah, it depends on the space.
It's like a WeWork space.
Yep.
So it's not bad, but and I could probably make it work, and I would change the pop up to just bring it to this location.
Yeah,
so
come here.
It has advantages, right? And I was really close to doing it in May when I started to see like just how much stuff was flowing in, but July's been slower. It just has, like, slower for me, right? Like, and I'm judging that against kind of May and June, where May and June alone was like 750,000 cards. And so July is probably going to end up, it depends on how many the stores bring and how much we end up at the show. If the show becomes a lot and the stores back up a ton, and I don't know that they will or won't, but that could end up, I don't think I'll go below 300,000 cards, but it's not pushing towards the goal that I want, which is 500. So
and these are sifted, right? Like inventory cards, or no?
I mean, long term they're sifted, but when I get them, they're not.
No, I mean, like, are you talking 300,000 cards in inventory that have been sifted, and like these are what you're selling as singles, or
no?
Okay.
No. So, good rule of thumb: it could be 10 cards, it could be 100,000 cards. It doesn't matter. I'll use 10,000 cards for the sake of that. Feels approachable, right? About 80% are going to be just dirt. Like you might find a gem in then, but just dirt. And that's when I look at it and go, that goes to my bulk buyer, and that's great, right? About 5 to 7% are the playables, and the margin on that is buy for a penny, sell by the time it's through the machine, even on a single card order, which is how I base all of my kind of math, is not the multiple, right? You're making probably 25 cents on that, based on where your floor is, depending on where your floor is, but on the average. And then everything else between let's call it 13-15% on the high, is the stuff like reverse hollows, EXs, illustration rares, the works. So on 100,000, you're talking about 10,000 cards. Now most of that's going to be in the hollow reverse hollow category, but you might be. I probably have here. I have drawers similar to you, at least a couple. But like one of these boxes is just EXs. There's another box, I think, of just EXs. There's another box of just Cosmo Hollows, right? Like,
yep.
That's the stuff I need to list. That's the stuff that I know people want. But
that's the eBay project tonight.
That's tonight. But I don't want to go below kind of that 300,000 number because I really want to push. But I have enough time between now and when my bulk buyer will come that it won't be the numbers I want, but I'll probably be net neutral, around the same position as the previous month. But again, I mean, we're talking 3 months ago, or no, not even a year, not January. I turned bulk from January to March into $2,500. And that was no listing, just selling bulk, just reselling the bulk. I turned April and May into, between the reselling of bulk and the selling of playables, into about 6,500, 6,700. And just the intake from June and the beginning of July, plus the sellable or the playables, is about 14 grand.
That's awesome.
That's top line, to be fair. Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, yeah.
But I want to say, I think I ran the numbers all in since launching the store, or including the launch of the store, over the last 6 months. I think all in, we're at like 26,000 top line and like 15 or 16 in net. So, I mean, again, the margins are there if you're willing to do the
work. So. No, that's awesome. I mean, God, this whole thing, everything that you put together, I told you it's fascinating to me. I know we've DM'd leading up to this. This is for everyone. This is the first time we've actually been talking face to face. But I had a feeling we were going to spend a bunch of time just kind of the back end stuff. It's funny that you're joking around about the actual selling portion of it, not being a thing, but you obviously have a passion for everything else. And I think anybody who kind of hears this conversation, they're going to be, the first thought is going to be, why not me? Then they're going to go through like this cycle of like, I'm jealous. That's kind of awesome. How can I do that? Oh, wait, I can't do that, or I'm not ready for that, or I don't have that level of risk taking to be able to do what you've done as quickly as you've done it. But if we were to move into the selling portion, just because I've already been talking a while, I mean, I know you just launched your website recently.
Mm-hmm.
You're moving stuff on TCG Player, mostly playables.
Yep.
You haven't really gotten the eBay stuff going.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, how are you doing those numbers with a brand new website specifically, as well as whatever you're doing on TCG Player?
So, okay. TCG Player is just, not quite lowest list, but mass quantity, all playable. So that's an easy win, right? I knew very early I was just going to focus on the playables, because for me, I look at TCG Player as a playable site. And that is a determination I made very early on, and why I have a hard time understanding Magic being bought on eBay. But like, that's just my mindset of it all. And so I leave that there. The site, we've done, after today, like $3,000 since July 4th. So 12 days in.
But still, for a brand new website, for people that don't know, that's a really big deal for anyone who doesn't have a website, which is a lot of people in this space, because it's too hard to market. But again, you finding that level of success so quick. So that's just not something that happens.
It's going to look like it's quick. And then the reality is that's 9 months of building a server, building a community, of building people, right? Like, it's also taking into account that a lot of these sales are people who are using that bulk trade-in credit and then going, I want this, plus I need to add a little cash, right?
Yeah, their trade-in credit, I assume, is moved fully to the website.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
And one of the things long-term that I've got to do is I will have eBay, but I will have it eBay through I will have the system to move it from eBay to Shopify as well, so that
Mhm.
I could sell at a discount from where they would have sold on eBay just to get through the eBay fees, and they can use their trade credit. So it pushes them back into the environment of saying, well, shit, I want to sell him my bulk or my trade of whatever, because now I'm going to get the singles or the slabs or the seal that I want, and it all stays on my account. I would say the first day we sold like $1,200 worth of stuff, and I made a joke because I screwed up the shipping on the site on Shopify. I just didn't do it right, and this is after DJ took time to actually try and train me on it. I still screwed it up.
It's the right person to learn from.
Oh, for sure. He was very gracious with his time on it. And I made a positive out of it. I went and met with my first buyer, then bought another thing when I was like, hey, I will drive it to you, because he's not that far.
Okay.
And it was like, I'd rather drive it to you, make the connection, shake a hand, and say thank you, than spend $20 more on the shipping, where it doesn't make sense when you live an hour away. And so we did that. But another buyer actually found me just through the shop app. He's like, you had a good price. Like, that was it. And it turned out he was local, and which helped. And I also still had
didn't know you from anything, just blindly, hey, here's a website, I'll buy Pokemon off this site.
Yeah,
that's the crazy part.
Yeah, that went through me. But now he's on the server, and because I was like, I reached out. The thing that DJ really drilled in, and I'm very grateful to, was do manual capture payment so that you don't get auto pay, so that you don't lose to somebody who's trying to scam you, so you don't get chargebacks, right? Like, anything over a certain dollar value, reach out to them. And here was this brand new guy, and I could tell the first guy was on the server, I could tell the second guy wasn't. It was like, all right. But we've since had a lot of comms. He's emailed me, he's bought a second time. My favorite thing he did was he bought Unova heavy hitters, and those things are a bitch to ship. And so I asked him just by email, I was like, can I just break this down and send it to you? And he was like, yeah, I don't care, I'm just gonna rip it anyway. So
nice.
I got to move it for like $5 worth of shipping value versus like, I don't know, $20 to move that box.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, guys. Like, in general, this business is largely relationship building, right? And that's talking to you, that's dealing with DJ, that's talking to Phantom or Bronze God or any of these other people. It's not just the YouTubers.
You've done it better than everyone, honestly. And it's not like a name dropping thing. These are legitimate connections that you've made.
Well, and again, yes, I appreciate the sentiment. What I would say is, you don't go in hat in hand being like, how can you help me, right? You just talk to people. And that's the other thing. Like, I've had customer service issues on TCG Player. I don't know why. Maybe it was too late. Maybe it's just because it's not the thing I'm supposed to be doing. But I had like a series of 5 orders. It's clearly like from one batch, where like everybody's orders were just shifted to the left of the label that I put on the thing. And so I've been playing this round robin game as people get their stuff of like, all right, I'm going to send you a label. Can you just package that and send it to this person, right? Like, and everyone's been kind. Everyone's been wonderful. But another one came through yesterday. I was like, damn it, when is this going to end? How many did I do this way? And it's not like they didn't get their, in fact, 3 people got their own cards and another envelope. I was like, I don't know what I did here. But again, and TJ, I don't have a relationship with TJ. I've just shut him out because I've been watching him forever. He's really emphasized on his channel about like, every screw up, every time that you get that "where's my order" email is an opportunity to make an impression with somebody so that they come back to you, right? Like, the guy who I made the screw up with, he was like, hey, I'll buy from you next time. It was something like, do you mind if you throw like a Lily's in or something? I was like, dude, for helping me out, I'll throw you a place at the Lily's. Are you kidding me? Right? Like, so yeah, like, and that costs you nothing. It cost me 2 cents per. Like, yes, there's some opportunity cost, but now that guy's buying more from me. What do you care? And that's the thing, is like, again, do I know these people are coming to my bar mitzvah? No, right? But like, at the end of the day, like, if I have a question, I know I can come to them and they'll give me the real answer. And Brian from Pokémon, I don't have a relationship with him. I'd love one, but I don't. And he calls it the sauce, right? Like, and it's like, I got the sauce on shipping from DJ, still screwed it up, and it wasn't because he didn't put the effort; it's because something I did.
Mhm.
Sam and I talk a lot about that kind of stuff. Sam from Lewis and I talk a lot. Eck and I talk a lot. I hope to continue to have this relationship where, hey, how you doing this, or what are you doing here? I saw you doing that, because man, the way in which you can see things. This is something that I caught early, and I now see Wenzel do this. If you know Wenzel TCG, the rip and
Mm-mm.
so Wenzel TCG is a rip and chipper, and I'm not going to pretend it came from me, right? Because I stole it, straight up stole the idea from somebody else. But it was like this very unknown YouTuber, at least not a lot of people watching at the time, and he was doing rip and chip, and he did this thing called the Vault, and I was like, all right, what is this? And it was like every time you bought a certain number of packs, another pack was put into the vault, and you had to hit a certain card from these specific sets, the chase card of those sets. And if you did, you got the other packs in the vault for free. And I was like, that's genius, right? And so I took that same thing to Whatnot, and it killed, because there was a built-in audience, and it was like, here's this immediate play. Well, then I took this other idea from another streamer that was on, that was like, sort of like a roulette wheel effect of, if you hit you win they always have these giveaways, and giveaways just eat at profits on Whatnot. And so the concept was, if you hit the givey on Whatnot, I'll spin this wheel. If you get the thing, then you get a really big prize. If you don't get anything, I sign an energy card and say thank you very much, right? But some people hit, and so, which, on the aggregate, you're probably net even, because some people get a booster bundle. One person did the 50-50 after, which there's the gamification of this was my idea, but the first idea came from that kind of spin the wheel piece. I was like, well, I can gamify it further, right? Like, I can make it like, okay, if you hit on the roulette, you get you get a booster bundle. If you put that up for negotiation, so to speak, and you hit a 50-50 play, it goes from a bundle to an ETB. And night one of this play, somebody hit the ETB, and I was like, damn, maybe I'm gonna get torched here, right? But for the most part, like on the over time, it evens out in the averages. But it's and I think even I want to say we opened that ETB and it got a gold card out of it. So, like, again, great for the stream, right?
Yeah.
But don't be afraid to steal from others directly. But the best way that you can do that is by having a ton of conversations and figuring out what makes sense and where I failed at this, or that I know I'm doing things that is probably driving like Phantom crazy. Like, why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And he and others, like I said, have been on my ass about, why are you not listening? And I'm like, guys, I've said this to just try and put a stop to this part of the conversation. It does sound dickish, like there's no way around it. I was like, guys, I've moved more cardboard than everybody else on the server. I don't know what you're talking about, right? Like, I do it differently. I've just moved more. And
you could argue that your way of doing it is actually more difficult too. So when you actually turn on the easy button, it'll just take off.
Well, and there is a fear to that. Like, and I don't think I talk a lot about risk off.
I just brought this up too. It's like, if you don't have time to do all the things that you're doing, if all you have time for is to pack orders.
Yeah. Yep. It is. Right now, I'm wildly inefficient from where I should be, because it's basically dead inventory, right? 250,000 cards of dead inventory. But I look at it like, and this is the conversation I was having with Eck. I was just like, listen, whenever I list that, it will move, and that becomes the new problem. And I have so many other problems right now that listing and then also selling and dealing with what the ramifications therein becomes a torturous new problem that I don't know that I have the time to solve. That inventory is not, like, I understand it's dead money, but it's not like it's not money. If I sold it, if I wanted to move it tomorrow, it will move. And maybe
it's not without value. Yeah.
And the other thing, and you were talking about like people either walking away, the cycle of jealousy and learning and the pattern and everything. If somebody walks away from something in this conversation, is build into your models an exit strategy. I don't price anything. I don't do anything without knowing, if I had to, how would I liquidate and still be profitable? Not how would I liquidate? How would I still be profitable?
Mm-hmm.
So the only way to control that is to control your buy pricing. And if you now you also have to know and make the connections and figure out how to do the exit in the first place. But you were at least considering selling your Magic collection.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest with you, I almost reached out to you about it.
I didn't do it. I got several offers too.
I believe
I didn't do it. Yeah.
I can imagine there were some close and some silly ones as well, right? I did almost reach out to you
All
because
over the map. Yep.
I was like, man, that's kind of a nice thing, like ready to go with the speed. Like that's hard to find, right?
Yep.
I was glad that you didn't for you because there's no amount of money that would have paid for the time. And
Nope. That's what stopped me when I realized like the offers that were coming in, even the one that was the closest, that was the most well thought out, that respected the time, it was still kind of like, no. But I also learned, because I've done 2 online store buyouts since then.
Yeah.
So I kind of applied some of that logic to how I'm going about to do that now.
Yeah.
And now instead my storage unit's full because I can't store it in my garage because we're getting smoke from Canada right now. But
I don't know.
Yeah.
I loved that you put it out there, and I was really happy that you didn't sell it because, my approach would have been like, okay, do you want some sealed product that's equal to X value? Because that makes the sense to my operation, right? And maybe that would have even worked, but again, I stopped myself from even making the offer or approaching you, not because I didn't think you were approachable or that we couldn't have found a deal. To be fair, I'm pretty sure we probably could have found a deal. It's that success also is ripe for failure. Like I could have taken all of that and gone, well, great. Now where do I put it? How do I sell it? What am I going to do? The CSV file is nice, but it doesn't take away from the fact that now I have to also pick and pack these things. And that's what stopped me from even reaching out. Now, it shouldn't stop others, but I don't think enough is discussed. Rudy talks a lot about risk when he's talking about sealed inventory and investing. And I really I know people both love and hate Rudy for different reasons, but the thing I appreciate about him is that he actually talks about risk. He doesn't do it nearly as well as I'd like him to for an audience that may not understand all the terms well enough, but he does do something. There is a risk to success though, and not being prepared and then being underwater and then failing your customer experience and failing yourself because you're unable to take care of yourself, your body, your sleep, whatever it is. I already don't sleep enough. If I do what I'm fearful of listing the actual cardboard that in these shelves, I feel like, when am I going to sleep? But I also don't know that it's successful enough to warrant paying somebody to take on that challenge. If I knew tomorrow it would sell enough to pay for the employee, and I don't mean even make profit, just pay for the employee, I would probably do it. But I need to see that in first action.
Sealed is the better way because you're moving a lot more money with fewer motions.
Oh yeah.
And I don't even have the biggest inventory in the world, but my slowest day is 25 orders.
Wow.
Doesn't matter what day of the week it is.
Wow. Okay.
TCG tracking, I've got, and ever since I did that, I now have eBay, Manipool, and TCG Player going all at once. So no matter what, across those platforms, it's a minimum of 25 orders. There's usually very few one-card orders. We'll just put it that way. So I've had to just be as organized and as meticulous as possible in order to make that happen, or I lose all my time just doing that.
Actually, one of the things I love about your store and what you focus on is you have an operating model. You have an actual operating model, an efficiency model.
I had to. Yeah. Because so you grew up with Magic. I didn't. I got into this game similar to you. I've got 2 8-year-olds. They love Pokemon. They love playing the games. They learned how to read by playing the Pokemon games.
That's awesome.
That's how into it they are. And so I wanted to build a Pokemon store, but I got in trouble and I needed to find my way out. And I've talked to TJ one time, and he was generous enough with his time when he was early in his YouTube journey. Right after it, I gotten screwed out of a good chunk of change. And he was like, dude, you just need to find volume to cover your mistakes. And I was like, okay. And I went and I bought 80,000 Magic cards. Yeah. And that was the start of everything. And I've been packing 25 orders a day ever since that happened.
That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, that
So
to your point, like I don't remember. It might have been Roar. I think it might have been Roar. It was either him or Game Vitamins. It was probably Game Vitamins, but Roar has made a big emphasis on this about the margins of like your operating model, like how you ship will change so much of actually how much profit you make.
Yep. Cost of goods sold, figuring out how to get more into less, especially now with these shipping changes, where USPS Ground Advantage, for anyone who doesn't know, or anything under a pound is treated like it's a pound. So in a bubble mailer, you're paying for a pound of shipping.
Yep.
It's in the world of moving singles. The second you go over $50 in value in any of these platforms, you're paying $6-7 of shipping.
Oh yeah.
Didn't used to be that way, you know. We could get away with $4, $5.
Yep.
So it's going to change a lot of things. I'm reeling from it right now because it's like I got to look at everything right now. I'm losing money on orders when I was ahead by a lot before. But we are currently doing a marathon, man, and I love every second of it.
I'm happy to you have my time. If you need to cut for any reason, you have my time.
No. I appreciate it. I'm just thinking about if anyone's actually still with us at this point in time, which I hope they are. There's two things that I just kind of wanted to wrap on.
Sure.
And then obviously love to keep the line of communication up with you directly, but specifically YouTube, and then just kind of like branding, because this is, I think, another area that you and I kind of agreed on. YouTube, as far as it being a necessity, how you're approaching it. And then the last topic that you can kind of pivot into is like your plans for the business going forward and what people can look out for.
Sure. So YouTube is the bane of my existence. It is the thing I least look forward to in the business. And probably even like the least above like picking and packing, because and that's a control mechanism. I could turn on shipping costs on TCG Player, and all of a sudden I'm going to get a lot less orders. I cannot avoid doing YouTube, and it takes me a lot of time. I end up building scripts so that I have something to work from. It's just how my brain works. I can talk like this for hours and have no real problem, right? But and I'm fine with riffing in general, but it is an odd thing to do to just the camera when you're not actually talking to somebody. I wish it was more like this, frankly. One of the things I want to do, and if this was of any interest of you in the future, is I want to do a trade show on Trade Talk Tuesdays or something, right? And where it's a live show similar to the fantasy football realm. And what we would do is people bring their trade ideas of, I'm thinking about doing this for this, or this for this and this. And instead of just putting it into a collector, which, have collector sponsor the damn thing. I don't care. Right. But like to get some real life advice of like, yes, the tool says it's an even trade, but you're trading in, nickels for dimes when you can just keep the dimes that you have. Right. And on the opposite end, though, as a business, I'm happy taking the nickels because I know how to move the nickels. Right. And so, it works both ways, but from a YouTube perspective, it is the least joyful thing I do related to the business every single day. On the other side of this, though, you can't show that. You have to express the joy, or at least that it's okay. Like, here's the good things of today, or the bad things. I've tried on videos that I've done here, right? So, people want authentic. But they don't want your burdens, right? They're okay with you sharing your story, and if that has burdens in it, but they're not here to watch me complain. They want to either learn or they want to commiserate if that is required. But ultimately, they do not want my burdens. And my biggest burden is actually just, how do I hit the record button and not scream into the void, because it takes me 50 takes to do the same thing.
Dude, I'm right there with you, and I would love to do something like that, a standing thing, but it's like it's like you brought up Phantom multiple times because he's like the perfect example of coming to the space. The thing I like about Phantom is that he was direct, right on, and people don't want to necessarily hear it, but he did this before. He did it off of YouTube. He learned a lot of really hard lessons, and then the second time around, he brought it to YouTube, and the content creation is like his jam. It's what gets him out of bed.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like for you and I, it's like the last thing that we have to do to check off our list so that we can say that we finished our daily TCG grind, right?
That is it. It is the vegetable
So,
of my day every single day.
yep.
But on the other hand, it does help. I'm not pretending it doesn't help.
Yeah.
Was it Flip House Finds? He's on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I love him.
Yep.
Nice guy. He made a big post about the new Shipping Shields 3-pack thing, and I love these things. These are phenomenal. If anybody has not used them or seen them, they are absolutely phenomenal.
Yep.
They say that they will hold 30, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, you can fit 60 in them. Perfect tool. Anyway, he did the thing. I reached out just in comments like, hey, love to see somebody calling this out in the space. Greg from Shipping Shields is amazing. Yada, yada, yada. He sends me his code, which I appreciate, but I don't know that I'm qualified as an affiliate to use. And so that just got us talking. I join his server. I say, thanks for, what the thing. We talk a little bit more. He joins my server. He's like, hey, how do you have 3,500 people in the Discord and only 180 people on your YouTube? I said, maybe they don't love me that much, right? And you're talking about an audience, but it's accessible, but it's not it's not demand avoidant, but it's also I do have access, but I don't have access to every part of their day, right? And they don't have to support me all the time. I am there on the server to help them. As long as I provide their value, there's a reason for them to be there. But it is still, and this is important for I think people to know, in the same way that for me, at least this is how I view YouTube, while this can build relationships, it is a one-way relationship. I am there on the YouTube side of things as it relates to most viewers to provide a value that if they do not find will end very quickly. And my value that I get out of it in theory is some brand recognition or whatever else, right? Opportunities to with people like yourself or whoever, right? But it is not a guarantee of all of a sudden this is going to make me a multimillionaire. In fact, it is the least effective hour I spend in my day because it is both the least amount of joy and it is not progress. I don't have Phantom's numbers. I don't have DJ's numbers, right? But to your point, and there are people who I see right now in this space. There's one on the Shiny Rectangles server who's done some really creative shorts. And I wish I could remember his handle on Instagram, but really creative shorts and clearly has a smart marketing eye, right? And I'm like, dude, if he can bring this to long form, he's going to crush. But I don't know what his other skills are, right? What else? You can only go so far showing how to how well you can show something before you actually have to tell them what you're doing, right? And he seems to have gotten a really good idea of how to do that in short form. And I think he'll probably do fine in long form. But for me, I look at it and I just go, this is the necessary evil of the reality of a TCG business or just any kind of brand that you want to build. It's also it can be fun like this. On occasion, there's a video that you really enjoy or that you really liked making. But I think for me, it's the recognition that Phantom, DJ, they've all had these multiple YouTubes. Not just they've tried, in Phantom's case, he had tried bulk before too, right? But they put their 10,000 hours in. I'm at hour, 400 or something, right? Whatever it is. And so we're not in the same place. And it was Phantom that was like, dude, you don't need an editor because you don't know anything right now. And I was grateful though that somebody else reached out because they heard how miserable this was making, because I used to do everything in one take. Otherwise, and now I would take 50 takes to do it in one take, but it was everything. There's a service out there that will help you with AI to edit the videos, and that's what I've been doing lately. I don't know that I love it either, to be fair, because it does the kind of chop effect, right? And
but you kind of did the whole, even the whole format changed recently. It wasn't just that tool.
Well, and so I viewed it as, if I'm going to make the change, let's change the whole thing, right?
Okay. Which is honestly, like as a viewer and as someone who didn't know you as well until somewhat recently and still don't know you all that well, like it's just more, it's easier to consume
Okay. Now.
than before. Yeah, yeah. I think certain things pop, like they started to click, like the pop ups and stuff like that. It's just started to kind of make sense in the newer format. I don't know if I was just being stupid before or
No,
what, but this
no.
new format just is it for whatever reason things are resonating a little bit more. At least when I listen to them. So
DJ, he does voice memos. That's his thing typically. He did a voice memo. He was like, brother, I've been watching your shit for like 40 days. I still have no idea what you do. And I was like, all right, then that's a problem, right?
I don't know that I would have put it like that, but
Well, I know.
I think maybe it's just because the topics are smaller, so it's easier to consume. So
Yes.
yeah, the video lengths are it's the same, but it's just
We've shortened a bit, and that's another thing.
okay. Okay.
I'm shooting like 20 minutes worth of video, but by the time the edit is done, it's down to like 6. And it's like, well, here's another trick, and this is just so that you know, monetization requires 8. But I'm at a place of like, I'm not going to be monetized anyway on these things, so I'd rather just learn the trade and build up the tolerance right now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yes, the other thing I will tell you is, and I know people trash on it, but the shorts are very. I've only done 2, but man, do they get hit. And hundreds of views on simple 30-second shorts, and some subscribers that come to. So while it's not something I'm excellent at or I've done a lot of, it is definitely something I'm going to do more of, just because I do see a net on effect, either whether it's just upping your watch hours to get closer towards monetization or actual subscriber count, right? So
yeah, probably for a question for a real YouTuber like Phantom, but I've heard, again, just trying to consume and learn everything the way that you do, that when you mix long form and shorts on the same channel, they can kind of steal, and therefore it ends up kind of stagnating your channel. Probably worth asking him about that, but
I will.
That was just something I randomly stumbled across one day.
My understanding of it was it's basically a wall of like, they don't like what you do on your shorts does not really count towards your long.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I don't think it changes the subscriber count. I think it's more like your watch hours don't go up that much. But on the other hand, live watch hours do count.
Yes. Yes. And that was a newer change from what I understand too. It didn't always used to be that way. All right. So as far as the business, what's next? You've talked multiple times about you always want to have an exit strategy. Is this business something that you want to end up being hands off on, or do you see yourself being an operator in some way? And what does that look like as far as timeline?
So it's funny. I was talking to somebody at work about this today. We were talking about some other things, and anyway, he was like, "Why didn't you just do that?" He's like, "I was like, because I make a lot of damn money here, and I don't make enough money to replace that on top of the healthcare, right? Like, our compensation package is better than what I'm making slinging cardboard right now, buddy." And so there was that piece. The reality is, I am compensated very well for what I do. I also like what I do. I really actually enjoy my work. I know not many people can say that, and not many people like where they work. I for now, maybe not always, I like everything about what I do. It provides me a lot of grace, including doing this as well, right? Like everything. So I don't really have any motivating reason to lose the job. But what I would like to do is do sort of what I've been doing so far, which is building it towards, yes, I will lose massive amount of percentage, but I will be an owner and not an operator. Get it to the place where I have a manager or two, get it to a place where we have employees, get it to a place where I'd like to be Rob, but my full-time job pays for my family, and the business pays for the business. And I am able to, from that business, take a profitability for having built it, but not necessarily max profitability so that it can be run independently of mine. So that is my personal goal, is to get to that. Do I think do I think that that's fully achievable? I think it may be more pie in the sky than in reality. I think at some point I'm going to be forced to choose that if you really want this thing to grow, you've got to put 2 feet into it. Right now, I'm not forced to choose.
Yeah, maybe, but like you said, a lot of skills have translated over. That's how you got to this point in time. So you never know. And also, you're really still very early on.
That's another thing. It
I mean,
feels
3 years out, it might look completely different. You might be just sitting back collecting checks.
well. So my wife is. We were talking. She was. We were talking about the stuff in the space again, and
Yeah.
she goes. I said, well, you know what I need, and she just, without being asked, she said, a fucking store. For like, I need you to get this out of the building and into a location. And I was like, okay, well, now I know how you feel.
Mhm.
And so as we're talking about it, though, I was like, sweetheart, you understand that like a store is way off, right? Like, I told her that I looked into a location, and she's like, why not? And I was like, because I could pour every bit of profit I've made so far into a 1-year lease, and it nets me nothing except for I pulled all the profit into it. If in a year there is a reason to do it, then I will move into a location, and that will allow for more growth. But I will not go further than that. Probably, I mean, is it possible I need another storage unit or whatever? Maybe, sure. But I don't see myself growing that much that quickly, and I could be very wrong. But I want to get to a bear market. That's been sort of my line in the sand. Is don't make a big move until the downturn in the market happens. See
it full cycle. Yep. Agreed.
See the cycle through and be like, okay, we're coming out. Now's the time to start putting your marker of like, this is the place to be location wise. Yeah. Otherwise, I just feel like you're buying at the top, right? And I just, even if the space was cheap, you know, and you might pay the dividends of doing like a year or two in a hot market, because I actually don't think the market's going to cool down for another year or two. But I look at it and go, let's see if in a year it's worth getting a WeWork type space, getting a place that you could operate out of that's a little bit of a cost, but not $6,000 a month, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah. I've never, to be honest with you, understand the economics of these businesses. I look at like a Hallmark. How many cards are you selling that you're paying for $10,000 worth of square footage at this location? Mm-hmm. That never made sense to me. And so, you know, the more I look into it, especially at the rates, I think it's something like ridiculous, like $75 per square foot in my area. It's ridiculous. It could be more. I just don't know. But yeah, I'm a year away from probably pulling the trigger on a location that I feel comfortable with at a certain price level. And that's just an operating space. And then I'm a cycle away from saying, okay, this is worth doing on a full time. But that I may be 50 by that point. At that point, I may say, yeah, I just want to be an operator. Like I just want to be an owner and not an operator.
Well, it was Rob RNG Games who pretty much was saying his online business funds the store, and then that makes the store essentially not free, but you get what I'm saying. Like that's been his model for quite some time, where TCG Player, eBay, the website, getting that all firing up, and yeah. But he also does bulk lots, which you don't have interest in doing. So,
I wouldn't say I don't have interest.
You have a bulk buyer.
I have a bulk buyer.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say I have no interest in doing bulk lots, but there's a risk on there, right? You're holding inventory longer, right? And
that's more space for your wife to get upset about. Yeah.
There you go. Right.
The risk factor there is you might not live.
Well,
if you hold all that stuff.
I have. Let's be clear for all the law enforcement agencies watching this. I know exactly who will kill me in my life, and I don't know when or how. But in the clue of life, I know it was Miss Scarlett. You know what I mean? Like, whether it was a lead pipe in the library, I don't know yet. But yeah, she's certainly going to be the reason I get taken out. But yes, for the future, the goal for me is to get to a full cycle and then get to an owner model where it is operating and humming, and I've got managers and employees, and we've got set up. If you ask me big dreams, I want to be like Card HQ. Okay. That would be the big dream goal, and have that kind of space, have that kind of place, have it be a location, like a destination within the TCG hobby that people want to go to and rip packs and have multiple different avenues for it. That would be the top end goal for what this is. In the near term, though, and we've talked about this a little bit last night, I announced it on the server. I'm saying it now before it goes live anywhere else. I think just based on recording versus live. We are looking at a wholesale program, and I would say more than looking. There's some I's to dot and T's to cross, and we've got to build into that the program mechanics, how it works on the website, how do we deal with the logistics management, things like that. But the idea is, I'm far enough away from distro, but a wholesale program with enough access and a partnership there. And that's the other thing. I've used the word partnership a lot. I have multiple partners, right? Like, it depends on, a buddy of mine calls it, he says, you always find a new way to slice the pie even more. And, but I don't look at it as a net negative. I look at it as, again, this abundance theory, right? Like, I will have this program with this individual that I will be partners with on that. And everything that funnels through that, we have our kind of working relationship and percentage there. I have this operation on the server that I pay my dev and what he's done, but also what he continues to do. And so he gets a percentage of that, which also means it's not cash on for me, right? Like, we earn together, we lose together. And yes, I'm not going to make 100%. And yes, I can't give a future big investor 100% of all of my business. Well, technically I could, but that would mean that there were already these presets of these other locations of things, right? And I don't care about that, because if I can save myself a huge amount of time, or in this case with the wholesale program, build something that I wouldn't have had access to for capital reasons, for logistics reasons, for access reasons, all of these things. And a friend of mine was asking, like, why is he doing this with you? And I asked him the same question, right? And he's like, I liked you. You seem nice and affable from your YouTube, which is one of the benefits of YouTube. And he's like, you seem to have a good kind of feel for the community that you built, and just in general. And because he could theoretically work with anybody else. The other thing is, and this, because I realize there's kind of all different ages to the audience that will watch this, I was willing to take the risk to ask. He didn't approach me. I approached him. Hey, I see that you have this kind of access, and I don't know how, but would you be willing to partner up in some capacity? And here's how that might look. And what would you like that to look for you? And how can I make it work in a way that makes sense with what I bring to the table? And now, in every case, I have gotten extremely lucky. I will not pretend otherwise. I've worked with amazing people who you kind of have to also have been burned many a times, but be willing to get back up on the mat and fight for yourself, but also like take that lesson learned of, like, I think a lot of people withdraw. They get hurt, they get burned, they lose something, kind of like to your story about what TJ said of, like, just volume, you're out of this. They get burned and they get disgruntled, and then the whole world sucks, and they will never try this again, or they will not reach out to another human, or they will not ask for help or see if somebody would be willing to help them. I would say most times, if you ask for help from somebody, they were willing to help, as long as you then put in the work for it. And again, not knowing that there's not a 15-year-old or an 18-year-old that's watching this right now, I was willing to put myself out there and be laughed at, in theory, right? Like, why would I work with you? Like, that could have been the sentiment. In fact, I wasn't expecting it to be, but I wouldn't have been upset at him, right? Like, again, relative size and positioning, he's dealing with millions of dollars, so he could have literally dealt with anybody else. And I am extremely grateful, but I'm also very excited about the program, because I want to use it for my own purchasing, right? Because it is a level of access to product that I would not have been.
I jumped all over the survey myself.
Oh, good. Yeah. And I think,
real quick, let's plug that. Anybody who's not on the Discord, get on the Discord just to fill out this survey, which is really kind of gauging the interest of this program. I assume give you guys an idea of volume and what type of sourcing you'll need to do to even accommodate the request.
Yeah. So the forum is to understand kind of naturally where people think this kind of program should align from a wallet standpoint, right? And also gauge the interest therein. I had an interesting conversation.
Multiple card games, not just Pokemon too. I want to call that out.
Yeah. Because we don't know. I mean, maybe there's a big Lorcana base that just was like, I can't get access, right? And maybe we would not have touched that, right? I'm sure there will be a large OP requirement. I don't have, it's not like we're dealing with distro. We are literally dealing with non-distro in this case,
Mhm.
which also means we're not paying distro prices, which means I called it dancing in the raindrops earlier, that like, because I was explaining it to somebody on the server. I was like, because we were starting to see some of the survey results. And it was like, yeah, that's not really feasible because I can't do 65% when we're buying it at not 65%. And I was talking to the partner, and he was like, oh, maybe this isn't going to work, or do you have any concerns here? I said no. He's like, why? Because they were never going to be your buyers. Like you have to know that like they may want that thing, and if they got what they were wanting, they would do it. But you can't be everybody's buyers, and that's true. This is what I was talking about on eBay earlier, right? Like I'm not going to be everybody's buyer. Somebody will buy it, but not everybody, and that's okay. It's okay to not be loved by everybody. And in this particular case, you were starting to see from kind of an average of what people were expecting from a percentage to pay. I was like, that's too low. And so somebody else independently wrote like, oh, I'm excited by this. And as long as it's not one of these things where you pay to get in and you're still paying 95%. And what I said was this kind of dancing in the raindrops mentality of like, when you're dealing with the kind of allocation that we're going to be talking about, and it could get wiped out in a day. Don't get me wrong. Like if there were enough people signed up and had enough money, it could absolutely get wiped out. And then you have to, continue those relationships to build back into the allocations. But, certain items are going to be at 95%. Why? Because it's very hard to get an ascended, ETB case or whatever, right? And then there's other things that are going to be at a different percentage. But on the whole, right, like you want to be at a percentage that seems to make sense. So the way in which, and this is important, Brian talks about this a lot. We were trying to solve for X here, and there was kind of an aha moment. Now we've been talking for a month and a half, and it took sort of the results of the forum to be like, oh, well, what if we did this? And the big thing is, how do you get around Nexus? Because you really do not want to be dealing with Nexus if you can avoid it, right? And for those of you who don't know, or just listening to this for the first time, and it's annoying to hear acronyms and not know what they mean. Nexus is where you have sales tax in certain states, and you have to accommodate and account for those sales taxes. And when you hit a Nexus threshold for whatever that state is, and it's on a state-by-state basis, you then owe the state a ton of money, or you cannot operate in that state anymore. And frankly, this has burned a lot of people. And the first time I had ever heard about it was Brian from Pokémon, and he owed like, I don't know, 100,000 or something, right? And he didn't know he owed it, right? Like, why would he? And so we were trying to find a way around it without blowing up the program. And so the art of the possible to me, and we're still working on this, so if it's different in the end, you're hearing it first here, so to speak, is we will have sort of a hobbyist model, right? Both will be at a Patreon to access, but the hobbyist model will be like a much lower dollar threshold to enter. You can or cannot, it's up to you, be a reseller. So if you just want access because you're an investor, but you don't really want to go through the business of things, and you don't have a reseller's license, that's fine. But we're probably not dealing with enough quantity at that level to warrant the requirement of Nexus from those individuals, right?
Sure.
But then we will have sort of almost like a B2B model where we will give higher levels of quantity. So you'll have levels of quantity that are good at the lower level, right? And just access is really the first thing, and then quantity from there. But if you really want a lot, we're talking 20 cases or whatever it is, right? You want a lot because you don't have distro, or your distro doesn't have enough of what you need or whatever, right? Then from a B2B standpoint, you give us, to be in that program, it is a little bit more expensive. You also must have a reseller's license, and then we're off the hook on Nexus. But also, you can buy much more quantity, and we will, in theory, be able to lower the percentage requirement against, because you're buying so much volume that the shipping cost goes down. So we're playing with it, and that's the other thing is, like, the survey was built to see like what's right, what's wrong, right? Like, and I don't know that what I just said is where we end up, right? Because the other thing is there's a technical and logistical problem of how do we get people into the website? How do they operate on the website? Are they allowed to use store credit from my side of things, or is it got to be completely independent, right? Like, there are tons of things to work on. But right now, in theory, we're looking at like a September launch, depending on what we see from the forums. The initial forums is to say like, okay, maybe 25 people sign up. Great. Now we know that, we're going to allocate $50,000 to this or $100,000 to this. And that's the kind of money we're talking about. So like, we got to be closer to right than wrong when it comes down to this. And, for me, the risk is I don't want it to be screwed up, and it's my brand, my name, going back to the kind of the branding conversation we're having. And so that's why I want this to be successful. I want it to be successful for lots of reasons. One, I think people who could get access to greater amounts of quantity without always having to hit it retail or whatever. I know you and I talked a little bit about this. You buy back time, but for cash. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, this has been awesome. And as always, every single time we exchange messages or whatever, I'm left with more questions, but it got to end it at some point. Let's go ahead and wrap with where people can find you, where they can buy from you, where they can ping you for the many programs that you've got running.
Yeah, so the Discord, I believe you have the link in the description below. My website is AVA TCG. I think it's AVA_TCG because somebody actually has AVA TCG. And my Instagram is AVA TCG, but I do a lot on the Discord. You can check out the YouTube. And then if you just want to buy, sell, or trade, you go to avatcg.com. And that's pretty simple.
And then local pop-ups just for anyone who's in your area?
Yeah, if you're in the DMV, be a part of the server. You'll get announcements on when the weekly pop-up is, and if you have things to buy, sell, or trade. If you want to pick up from a trade from before, if you want to move a bunch of tins so that you can get into a Paldean Fates booster bundle, right? Like we do that too. So yeah, but I appreciate the time. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for the format. I've watched the previous installments. I'm looking forward to more. I think the world of you. I very much like your channel, and just been enjoying kind of building that friendship out with you. So thank you for the time.
Appreciate it. Feelings mutual. Thanks again.
All right, you have a great night.